Do I have a motion to return to open session?
Second.
Okay. Second is made. Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond? Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson? Yes. Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion passes. Do I have a motion to certify closed session that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from opening meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered?
So moved. Second.
I have a second. Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson? Yes. Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. As we begin tonight's meeting, I ask that those in the audience silence your phones. Cell phone notifications can be distracting to others in the audience and to the board as we conduct our meeting. Thank you. Our new superintendent, Dr. Bernie Bragan, is here with us tonight. It is good to have you here. Yep. Woo-hoo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bragan, for being here. And again, thank you, Dr. Whitaker, for all of the work you've done for us over this past 9 months, I guess it's been. It only feels like 9 years, right? So, our student representative this evening is Mercurius Yasa from Christiansburg High School. Will you please read our mission, vision, and core values?
Mission. MCPS is an innovative educational community. We value diversity and we are committed to equity and inclusion. MCPS empowers learners to realize success in an ever-changing global society through collaborations with communities, families, staff, and students. MCPS provides a safe, engaging learning environment and intentional exposure to positive social, emotional, and academic experiences. Beliefs. All students can learn in order to pursue their dreams. Schools are a safe place of joy, wonder, and creativity. Every person deserves to be loved, valued, and respected. Kindness is an essential skill of a responsible, productive community member. The diversity of our community is one of our greatest strengths. All people deserve equitable access to opportunities and resources. Every child deserves an advocate. Honoring the voices of students and other stakeholders strengthens the school community. Open communication and feedback are vital to our growth. Learning and teaching are collective efforts that begin at birth and involve the entire community. Relationship building and high expectations are foundational to student success.
Thank you, Mercurius. And we're going to make you work even more, because now's the time for our student representative reports. Do you have a report from CHS for us?
Yes, I do. For CHS, we've recently had lots of exciting news surrounding sports. For starters, Lawson Meekum set the CHS 5K XC school record by running 15 minutes and 32 seconds. He shattered the 17-year-old school record. In addition, the Christiansburg High School football team reached the state semifinals. We also recently started a Key Club, which is a student-led organization of the Kiwanis, and they do service projects for the schools and communities. As for the Student Advisory Committee, we recently met and collected student input, and Mr. Jones presented to us the schematics and plans for the new building. Lastly, on behalf of all the students, faculty, and staff, I would like to welcome our new superintendent, Dr. Bragan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mercurius. Jenna wasn't able to be with us this evening, but she submitted a report from Eastern Montgomery High School. Ms. Drake, will you please read her report?
Sure. Here's the note from Jenna. She says, I am unable to attend tonight due to a basketball game, although I wish I could be there. I would like to welcome Dr. Bragan and thank him for taking on the superintendent position in a wonderful county. I have written my report even though I can't attend tonight's meeting. At Eastern Montgomery High School, a primary focus recently has been service. The students have been getting involved in the canned food drive, angel tree, and a penny roll. Students also took on challenges Beta Club designed for World Kindness Week. The popular hit was a compliment wall to spread kindness. SGA is preparing a Christmas event this month. Winter sports have started with a strong start for girls basketball. Cross country ended their season at states with boys placing 4th overall and Valeria placing 12th individually. Students are now preparing for SOLs and final projects. It's mainly been a time of contributions and educational focus. Thank you.
Okay. Tonight, our schools will present the December Seniors of the Month. Mr. Pauly?
Thank you, Ms. Cass, Dr. Bragan, members of the board. A very special highlight of our board meeting is the recognition of a Senior of the Month from each of our 4 high schools. Photos and leadership profiles are displayed on the screens in the boardroom and will also be on display in the lobby of the central office. Our presentation format provides a snapshot of each senior and a quote from their administrator or teacher who nominated them for this recognition. Now, as is often the case with our Seniors of the Month being the most busy students in the schools, 2 of them are unable to be here tonight. So we will not be hearing from Auburn High School or Christiansburg High School as originally planned. Those students are involved in some extracurricular activities. But Mr. Simpson from Blacksburg High School is here with his Senior of the Month, and Mr. Lewis from Eastern Montgomery High School is here. Not only does he have the December Senior of the Month, but he's got a makeup Senior of the Month as well. So we'll start with Mr. Simpson, followed by Mr. Lewis. Thank you.
Good evening, school board members. Welcome, Dr. Bragan. It is my honor and privilege to present to you Carter Ackerman as Blacksburg High School's December Senior of the Month. At this time, I'd like to invite Carter and his family to come up here and join me. Carter, here's what one of your teachers had to say about you. It is a privilege to speak on behalf of Carter Ackerman. Carter is a dedicated young man who is always up to any task. He is an active learner and brings many thoughtful insights to the table. Carter routinely goes above and beyond on his assignments. He has also shown his leadership skills by organizing a team, creating a website, and creating video ads for his successful run for president during our mock election. He has also demonstrated his ability to delegate roles as a party leader during our mock Congress project. Carter always comes to class prepared to learn with a smile on his face. I feel confident that Carter will be successful in any future endeavors. And Carter tells me he plans to attend Radford University, where he eventually hopes to earn his doctorate in physical therapy. So congratulations, Carter.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Bragan. It is an honor, excuse me. I have the honor of recognizing a former Senior of the Month who until tonight has not been able to receive his recognition. Trevor Schutz is here tonight with his family as the EMHS October Senior of the Month. I invite Trevor and his family to come forward. As one of his teachers, Mr. Craig Hickson, stated, Trevor Schutz is one of the most unique individuals I have ever had the pleasure of teaching. Trevor's dedication to excellence is a great example for all around him. His dedication to his personal interests, such as railroads and aviation, shows no limits. He is the go-to in class for any information regarding railroad technology. He is in the process of working toward building his skills in aviation and has already participated in one NASA-sponsored program and soon will be beginning another program that will enhance his exploration of flight. In Scholastic Bowls competitions, Trevor takes risks that many players won't venture. He is not afraid to risk missing a question with an early buzz-in because he knows that he will get more right later. This strategy allowed him to be his team's highest scorer. Trevor is a great example of carving one's own path. He doesn't follow the crowd. This self-confidence has allowed him to excel and will help him achieve great things in life. Please join me in congratulating Trevor. I also have the honor of recognizing our December Senior of the Month, Brandon Kingery. Brandon's also here with his family, and I'd like to ask him to come with his family down at this time. To demonstrate why Brandon was selected, I would like to share a quote from one of Brandon's teachers, Mr. Mark Eaton. I really enjoyed teaching Brandon over his entire high school career. From his junior year until his graduation date, I will have had the honor of teaching him in 4 classes. I have enjoyed seeing him succeed and show his interest in classes from robotics to engineering, drawing, and design. During this time, I've been able to see his unique perspective on life. His hero is strongman competitor Brian Shaw, because Brandon feels, first, that this is a good human, and he also exemplifies the determination that Brandon aspires to emulate. Brandon hopes to have a career in strength and conditioning after attending university to study exercise science. My wish for Brandon is that he's able to continue to use his determination to achieve his life goals. Congratulations, Brandon.
Congratulations to all our seniors of the month. On to public address. Our next agenda item, we welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in the community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address. We have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Drake will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruptions. The more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers who will get to address the board. I will call each speaker up by name in the order that they've signed up. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The board does not respond to speakers during public address. The screens will show the speaker when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. Please state your name and the area of the county you live in. The first speakers are Stevie Bowman, then followed by Lowell Bowman.
Good evening. My name is Stevie Bowman. I am the chapter chair of Moms for Liberty here in Montgomery County. I live in Reiner. I wanted to give an update tonight on where we are at with a sexual assault policy for our victims in our schools. As of right now, we do not have a policy in place. The reason for this is because the state of Virginia does not mandate it. My daughter's rape is not the first one for this school system, and unfortunately, hers will not be the last. So I'm very disappointed that our school system hasn't created a policy before now. Mandate or not, I would have expected leaders of our schools to have had the initiative to create a policy long before this, when the very first rape came to your desk. The word common sense keeps being thrown around when talking about how to handle sexual assaults. However, with my daughter's case, no common sense was used. The principals at Auburn High School found out about my daughter's rape around 7:30 to 8 a.m. on the morning of April 28th of this year. They did not call me, her mother, until 1:21 that afternoon. 6 hours, folks. It took them 6 hours to realize that they should call me, her mother. That is unacceptable. Common sense would have been to call me and her father immediately when they found out that morning, and they should have never interrogated her without getting our permission. It would have also been common sense for the principals to have reported my daughter's rape to the police or even to the school resource officer, but they never reported it. Never. This is why it is absolutely necessary that MCPS have a policy in place. I am pleased to report that Mr. Garrettson and Dr. Johnson have been working very hard to get a policy written up to ensure the safety of victims in our schools and to increase parental involvement. There are steps that still need to be taken before this policy will reach you, the board. I ask you to vote to approve this policy when it reaches your desk. The safety of our children should be your top priority. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Mr. Lowell Bowman, and after Mr. Bowman is Crow Sindelar.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lowell Bowman. I live in Reiner. In the last meeting, you all discussed policies specifically tailored to sexual explicit material used in the classroom. These policies let parents know when the materials be used and gives the parents the option to opt their student out of using the material. That's a good thing. I was though disappointed towards the end of the discussion when Ms. Franklin wanted to make sure that the materials would not be removed entirely from the classroom. Why do we have these sexually explicit materials in the classroom to begin with? If we got rid of these materials, these sexually explicit materials, then we wouldn't need a policy to manage it. This seems logical to me. Do all the members on this board support the use of these sexual materials? We're exposing our kids to this stuff way too early, way too soon. Kids are only young for a very short period of their life. Just let them be kids. They can deal with adult stuff later on. We all know that adulting is not very fun. We want all of our kids to be safe. It's in your mission statement, the gentleman read at the beginning of the meeting. Yet we're allowing our kids to be exposed to these materials that are not age appropriate. Then we're all surprised when a kid gets sexually assaulted. The school's role is to provide an education to the kids. Sex should not be included in that curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Next, we have Crow Sindelar, and after Crow, we have Julie Stanley.
Good evening. My name is Crow Sindelar, and I live in Blacksburg. I'm here for the third time to ask the school board not to adopt Governor Youngkin's model policy next year. Tonight, I wanted to discuss how using the correct name and pronouns for students can influence their mental health by sharing my own story. I first realized I was non-binary over a year ago. I was depressed. I hated hearing my birth name and the incorrect pronouns. I was terrified. I could not talk about it with anyone, even my therapist, so I suffered in silence as the people I loved unintentionally invalidated me daily. Eventually, I told my friends that I went by Crow. They accepted me immediately, and I was ecstatic. It felt right. School became a refuge because of my friends. This January, I told my family the truth, and they refused it. What came after were the hardest 8 months of my life. I did not receive the respect I deserved from them for a long time. My depression became severe. I was miserable. And though I never considered ending my life, it didn't feel like I was living. I moved through it like a ghost, not real, spending all my time in my room to avoid being called something I'm not. All I needed was for others to use my correct pronouns and my name, to respect me. As a non-binary person, I'm under the trans umbrella. I share similar experiences with children like me all over the world. Trans youth have incredibly high rates of suicide and depression, but our needs are not difficult to accommodate. We want validation. We want a safe space where we can be ourselves. And for many, school is that space. I'm lucky. I have access to counseling and medication. My family came around to the idea of me being non-binary eventually, but this is not the case for all. To be a trans child is to be terrified of coming out, bullying, invalidation, terrified of physical and verbal abuse, sexual assault, terrified of being killed by people who don't understand us, terrified of killing ourselves. All we need is respect, which the model policy does not grant. It shows a blatant ignorance of how trans youth operate. It is not backed by science or psychology. It would allow my teachers to misgender and dead name me every day. School would no longer be safe for trans students. It would return to being a place of terror. Respect allows one to empathize and sympathize, to learn and understand. It is the foundation of a healthy school experience. The model policy does not respect us. It is not what we deserve as human beings and as children. Remember that I am 15. We're talking about teenagers, many of whom cannot even vote or drive yet. I never resorted to suicide, but thousands have before me, and thousands will now. Show us the respect we need. Reject the model policy for Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you, Crow. Julie Stanley. After Ms. Stanley is Aaron Scardo.
Hello, my name is Julie Stanley. I live in Christiansburg. I have served both the Blacksburg and Christiansburg communities for 28 years as a teacher. Currently, I'm a third grade teacher at Christiansburg Elementary. I'm here to ask that you allocate funding to increase the number of gifted staff in Montgomery County. A decade ago, 2.5 gifted resource teacher positions were cut, and they were never restored. And you may remember that a half a position was restored, but it has not been filled yet. The delivery of gifted services does not align with the 2020-2025 local plan for the educator of the gifted and is not equitable across the school division. There is some disparity in the numbers of gifted students served by our individual gifted resource teachers, with some students receiving less time than others. The best of my 28 years of teaching in Montgomery County have included co-planning not only with my team teachers, but also with my GRTs, the gifted resource teachers. We would incorporate strategies and opportunities that really helped our students grow academically and socially. Two of the most memorable projects and feelings of accomplishment from myself as well as my students were planning projects with my GRT. One of them I remember was a research project on ancient cultures. That research went on to today. I continue to use those strategies. Another was a problem-solving math project, which we continue to use in our classroom. I was able to co-teach with her while she modeled the strategy. She helped me set the stage and then allowed me to continue the project that was planned. It's really been too many years since we've had access to that kind of planning with a GRT due to the lack of staffing. I urge you to pay special attention to our advisory committee's plea for the restoration of the gifted staff. The explanation regarding for our needed additional staff is supported by our 21-22 review of the gifted services and program that was conducted by our consultant, Dr. Barbara McGonigal. The review states on page 11 that most inconsistencies in the elementary level are caused by inherent problems of shared gifted resource teachers who have to split their time between two campuses. And page 12, more GRTs would allow better communications with the general education teachers to ensure identified students' accomplishments in iLead and recognized for their academic worth, and allow more collaborative planning and teaching time. And it would help communication deficits pointed out by our GAC. Please support adding the funding to the budget to restore our 2.5 positions that were cut in 2012. And I really thank you all for your time, to the students and the staff of Montgomery County. And welcome, Dr. Bragan.
Thank you, Ms. Stanley. Aaron Scardo. And after Aaron is Cassidy Ackerman-Garvin.
Okay, I'm Aaron Scardo, and I live in Blacksburg. So first of all, I'd like to greet new superintendent, Dr. Bragan, and I wish you the best of luck. So members of the board, I have a quick question for y'all. What do y'all think a trans person is like? Do you imagine a less than flattering picture? Well, I'm here to tell you all that they all look similar to me and other people here in the audience. A trans person is simply someone whose gender identity and expression does not conform to what they were assigned to at birth. And a cisgender person's identity is what they conform to at birth. Trans people and cis people are both just normal human beings like you and me. Speaking of us being human beings, we're just people living our lives. And we do not just go in the bathrooms to sexually assault people, and if anything, we're at a higher risk of being sexually assaulted by our cisgender counterparts. Yes, according to a UCLA study from 2018, trans people are over 4 times, and yes, you heard me, 4 times, as likely to be a victim of violence than a cisgender person, and this includes rape and sexual assault. As you can see, we are at higher risk of violence compared to cisgender students, which is the opposite of the going to a bathroom to sexually assault people narrative. Please do not enact the model policies, and we're just people living our lives, minding our own business, and just trying to get by like you all. However, we cannot do that under these policies. Instead, these policies, which are just fueled by ignorance, bigotry, and hate, are going to target us, out us, and make our lives incredibly miserable, all because of some non-issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Aaron. And next we have Cassidy Ackerman Garvin. Oh, and next up is Janice Upham. Thank you.
My name is Cassidy Ackerman Garvin, and I am a senior at Blacksburg High School. First, I want to welcome Dr. Bragan. I'm very excited to work with you as I'm on your Student Advisory Council, and I think this is a really amazing and awesome time for MCPS, and I hope we can make some real change. So many people do not understand that there is a difference between sex and gender. Sex refers to the set of biological attributes in humans and animals. It is primarily associated with physical and physiological features like hormones, chromosomes, gene expression, and reproductive/sexual anatomy. On the other hand, gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities of women, men, and gender diverse people. Like any other social construct, it can change over time and varies from culture to culture. A transgender person, according to the American Psychological Association, is a person whose gender identity, gender expression, or behavior does not conform to that typically associated with the sex to which they were assigned at birth. Gender identity is a person's internal sense of their own identity as a boy/man, girl/woman, something in between, or outside the male/female binary. Gender identity is an innate part of a person's identity and can be the same or different than the sex assigned at birth. Gender expression is the manner in which a person represents or expresses their gender identity or role to others, often through appearances, clothing, hairstyles, behavior, activities, voice, or mannerisms. Gender expression may change over time and from day to day and is not necessarily related to the person's gender identity. I took those definitions from the BHS Student Handbook. We have made great strides towards equity and inclusion as shown by the support given to MCPS Pride organizations. I've seen firsthand how those communities have helped my peers and myself. Pride Club is a place for all LGBTQ+ students and allies, and my time as a member and as president has helped me come out of my shell. I wouldn't be here today without the support of my teachers and my peers. And yet, LGBTQ+ students are often treated as freaks. The model policies are discriminatory by nature. Is that the type of environment we want to promote? I've had the privilege of working with many different people at BHS. That diversity is something to be proud of. But the only way to cultivate diversity is to show that every student is welcome at school. Policies such as those proposed by Governor Youngkin will only harm students. I speak for every LGBTQ+ student when I say that we deserve respect. Children should not be pawns in a political war. We cannot pick and choose which students we support. All students deserve to be accepted at school. I ask you to listen to students. Autonomy is an important power, and we are strong enough to wield it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassidy. Next up, we have Janice Upham.
Hi, my name is Janice Upham, and I live in Reiner. And I was noticing the words on your wall over there, "In God We Trust." And that's exactly what I intend to address tonight. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He placed man on it and gave him a handbook with instructions to live by. God wrote the 10 Commandments and gave them to us to teach us right from wrong. He also gives us a stern warning against harming any of the little ones in the book of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 6, which says, "Whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea," unquote. Those who make the decisions about curriculum and policies that affect our children and those who approve them are answerable to God. Just because it's part of your job won't absolve you. Remember the Nuremberg trials. I want to read the second Psalm. "Why are the nations in an uproar and the peoples devising a vain thing? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. Let us tear their feathers apart, they say, and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. Then God will speak to them in his anger and terrify them in his fury, and will say, but as for me, I have installed my king upon Zion, my holy mountain. Jesus replies, I will surely tell of the decree of the Lord. He said to me, thou art my son, today I have begotten thee. Ask of me, and I will surely give the nations as thine inheritance, and the very ends of the earth as your possession. Thou shalt, this is the Lord, thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt shatter them like earthenware. Now therefore, O kings of the earth, take warning, O judges of the earth. Do homage to the Son, lest he become angry and you perish in the way. For his wrath may soon be kindled. How blessed are all those who take refuge in him.
Thank you, Ms. Upham. And next we have Don Upham. And after Mr. Upham is Jeffrey Fahrenkopf.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Bregan. My name is Don Upham. I live in Reiner. Isaiah 9:6, for a child will be born to us, and a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. Plato believed that evil comes from ignorance, but we understand that evil comes not only from ignorance, for then it would be excusable. In fact, ignorance comes from evil. We will, we choose, we create the moral ignorance in our souls. We voluntarily turn off the light of truth. For instance, we shut out the divine truth and justice of thou shalt not steal before we sin by stealing. The ignorance of the thief by which he thinks that he's filling his pockets with stolen money will make him happier than filling his soul with proper virtue is indeed, as Plato saw, a prerequisite for his act of theft. When Jesus stood on trial before the Roman governor Pontius Pilate, as recorded in the book of John, chapter 18, Pilate comes to the point of replying to Jesus, so you are king. And Jesus answers, you say correctly, I am a king. For this I was born. For this I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. And everyone who is of the truth hears my voice. Pilate replied, what is truth? That question still rings out in today's culture. Jesus in the book of John, chapter 17, prays to Father God for his disciples and for those who will be his disciples in the future. Sanctify, wash, cleanse them in the truth. Thy word is truth. I memorized the very first words of truth that I can recall being taught to me as a moral guidepost at age 5. And those words of truth have guided me through my life even to this day. Psalm 119, 9 and 11. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed according to thy word. Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. Over 50 million aborted babies willfully ignore thou shalt not kill. Transgenderism willfully ignores God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them and blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. What about ignoring honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth? Day by day, we willfully ignore. In God we trust.
Thank you, Mr. Upham. Next, we have Jeffrey Fahrenkopf.
Good evening. I am Jeff Fahrenkopf from Childress. First, I want to welcome Dr. Bregan. We trust your tenure with us will be not boring and yet fulfilling. And Dr. Whitaker, I'd also like to extend my thanks to you for your support. I saw some abundant talent in you in the recent combined board meeting, and where you did a great job of facilitating that. And I want to thank you for your filling in for us. All I have spoken at the last two sessions about the two Virginia model policies and concerns. I was able to review the Christian High School presentation last month by Josh Bauer. I was very pleasantly surprised and like to thank you or whoever is responsible for getting the bathrooms and locker rooms designed. The two types of options for both the bathrooms and locker rooms look like a well thought out approach. Those designs seem to do an excellent job of alleviating the concerns of many of us, and yet they do their best to try to meet the needs of all. I believe these solutions dovetail with the course correction that Governor Youngkin's 22 model policy set out to achieve: dignity and respect for all students and parents, as it's titled, and the document clearly speaks to those things. I would ask you to continue to embrace this revised 2022 model policy and replace the 2021 policy that Governor Northam's administration had put in place. I've read both in quite detail, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about those things. We've heard some of it tonight. After all, the 2022 model policy is a balanced approach. It states, and quote, "Schools shall serve the needs of all students. Schools should attempt to accommodate students with distinctive needs, including any student with a persistent and sincere belief that his or her gender differs from his or her sex. A team of appropriate school staff and other caregivers should collaborate with the parents to identify and implement reasonable accommodations or modifications. Single-user bathrooms and facilities should be made available in accessible areas, indicating accessibility for all students. The CHS facility renovation design appears to support this well. I understand that the current policy by Governor Northam is still on file as the accepted policy for Montgomery County. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Its titled Model Policy for the Treatment of Transgender Students in Virginia's Public School System is obtusely weighted with equity gone amok. It's a K-12 collateral damage, swallows up all students, not just transgender students, while disavowing a concerned parent's rightful control and influence on their child at the most tender ages. And parents will not tolerate this. Thank you. Please continue to move forward with Governor.
Mr. Fahrenkopf, your time is up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I forgot to tell Kelly Brennan that you were on deck. So Kelly Brennan, you are up. And after Mr. Brennan is Corolla Haas.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Brennan. I live in Reiner. First, I'd like to extend a welcome to Dr. Bragan, and I look forward to the chance to speak with you in a couple of Saturdays when you come out Auburn way. I'd also like to commend this board for the level of order and civility with which you conducted your last meeting. I wasn't here in person, but I watched it online, and it was refreshing and encouraging to watch and to observe. This is not to say we can't have vigorous disagreement and discussion, but that we can do this with respect for the speaker and for the rules of order. I'm here tonight to restate my support for collective bargaining for the hardworking people who make school happen for our kids every day. Of course, that starts with our classroom teachers and extends to all the other folks that keep the operation moving in the right direction. As we heard at the mid-October meeting, all of these people are hurting because they are doing more with less, and as staff leave for better pay, less stress, or both. Morale is down, but folks remain committed to their work and our kids. However, passion and commitment can go only so far if left unsupported and unrewarded. The main thing I am hearing at these meetings is that folks want and need a seat at the table. They need to be heard and included in the decision-making processes regarding their employment and the performance of their jobs. Will collective bargaining cost more money? Perhaps. Most new initiatives do. Will it be money well spent? Absolutely. Will it solve all of our problems? Certainly not. But it could go a long way towards addressing some of the corrosive systemic issues we face today. It is similar to the difference between providing our children with a substandard education or a quality education. If you remember from October, it sounds like we are in the midst of a slow train wreck, picking up speed. You have been looking into collective bargaining for about a year now. It is time to make this happen for the people that deliver a quality education and a quality educational environment for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. How are we doing on time, Ms. Drake?
We have 2 minutes remaining.
So should we go ahead and ask for the extension then? Ms. Drake has indicated that almost 30 minutes have passed. Does anyone wish to make a motion to extend public address by an additional 30 minutes?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
I'm going to go in your order around here. Sorry. And I'll reverse it. Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Yes. Mr. Trabaka?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor. Thank you for being flexible.
Motion is passed. You're such a rule breaker. Next up is Corolla Haas, and after Ms. Haas is Joanne Price.
Thank you. My name is Carola Haas from Reiner, Virginia. I'd first just like to thank the students speaking up in support of retaining the existing and fully compliant with the law transgender policy. So I wasn't planning to speak on that, but I want to make sure that this idea that parents are against it is false. Many parents are fully supportive of all our students being recognized in their full humanity and recognize that when any group is attacked for political reasons, we're all vulnerable. So thank you very much, students. So my main address is that I want to thank Dr. Bragan for starting his tenure here with the outreach to the community through the open house and community coffees. And I thank the school board for hiring somebody who prioritizes that open communication. I also want to thank the school board for your decision at the school board retreat earlier this fall to ensure that school board policy is followed, allowing classroom teachers the flexibility to use supplemental materials that work well for their students. This respect for the experience and expertise of teachers is essential, not only to maintain teacher morale, but to ensure that our students are receiving education that is best targeted to their needs within each school and their interest in the current times. So this brings me to 2 points. First, I hope the board and our new administration will affirm policies to retain teachers' autonomy in the classroom. They are with our kids every day, and they know their needs best. I appreciate state requirements that schools adopt primary curricula that are evidence-based, but I also value the learning that happens when teachers can respond to timely opportunities and student interests with supplemental materials. Second, I hope you will with all haste enter into a collective bargaining agreement with MCEA. Having more open lines of communication with school staff could have avoided many of the problems we've experienced in the past year. Thank you for all you do to support our students.
Thank you, Ms. Haas. Next up, we have Joanne Price, and after Ms. Price is Annie Chilcote.
Good evening, board. Good evening, Dr. Bragan. Welcome. I'm Joanne Price, Blacksburg, Virginia. For the last 2 years, almost 2 years, we've been coming before the board, and we've been fighting some of the issues that we deem very important to our community and to our parents and to our families. Among them has been collective bargaining. We are absolutely against collective bargaining. But what I have realized is that we have been, what Jeremiah 51:20-23 says, is we have been God's battle axe. What that means is that God is a warrior and he is mighty in battle. Every warrior goes to battle with weapons of warfare that are trusted, effective, and reliable. But being God's battle axe is extremely important because that means we are his weapons of warfare. So that means that you, with the policies, are not fighting us. You are simply resisting God. So here is what God is fighting for. Janice Upham came in and she gave Matthew 18. That was actually the scripture that I was going to read. However, there is another scripture that I want to read, and that is Romans 1:16, and it starts with, I am not ashamed of this good news about Christ. It is the power of God at work, saving everyone who believes, the Jew first and also the Gentile. This good news tells us how God makes us right in his sight. So this is accomplished from start to finish by faith, as the scriptures say. It is through faith that a righteous person has life. But God shows his anger from heaven against all sinful, wicked people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. They know the truth about God because he has made it obvious to them. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and the sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. And having a new superintendent is an excellent time to turn the page and invite this book back into the classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Next, we have Ms. Chilcote. And after that is Chris Thomas. And that is our last person.
Hello, my name is Hi, my name is Annie Chilcote, and I am the music teacher at Auburn Elementary School. I live in Blacksburg. I am also the lead music teacher in MCPS. And first of all, Dr. Bragan, I would like to welcome you and wish you the best as you get started. You're finally here. Even though, if you remember a couple months ago in your little Q&A, you dragged me for wearing a West Virginia University sweatshirt. We all know how that one turned out. So I'm here. I would like to share something good with you tonight. I'm here to do a child swap. It's a very busy time to be a musician, also teacher, all the things. I literally just came from a performance at my school where my 3rd and 4th graders were able to do their first music program since 2019. And for many of them, especially my 3rd graders, it was the first time they have ever done a music program. They had no idea. I explained, risers, what are those? They had no idea. It was completely. But anyway, if you were worried about all the traffic on Route 8 today, I can tell you that everybody was coming to Auburn Elementary School. It was the place to be tonight. My kids performed the Nutcracker Suite, so we had words to go with the Nutcracker songs. It was awesome. They wore red and green. They had Santa hats, decorations. I know that you all were here missing, because you have to be here, but if you would like to see it, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to share a performance with you. Every single custodian helped me out. Teachers, their children, staff, aides, our administrative assistant, they all stayed late to help me set up. They helped me put out every single chair we own at Auburn, which was still not enough chairs. It was a complete packed house. I've been at Auburn for 12 years and I've never seen that kind of turnout. So it was absolutely amazing. My art teacher hung artwork that was represented every single student that was performing. My TRT set up 2 cameras and stayed late, had somebody watch her kids so that I didn't have to worry about it. My principals and teachers, they did the narration, so I didn't have to worry about it. And my assistant principal dressed up in a huge inflatable Nutcracker costume, which was hilarious. But I just wanted to share that with you tonight. Everything is finer and Reiner, and I am so, so, so proud of my students and to be part of the Auburn community and also to be an MCPS teacher and a parent. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Chilcote. I think that's something all of us can agree with. And last we have Mr. Thomas.
Chris Thomas, Christiansburg. I join Mr. Bowman and several other speakers here tonight in my concern about the age appropriateness of the materials our children are exposed to. Sexually explicit materials are everywhere. They're in our curriculum. They're in our schools. They're even in this very meeting. I'd like to read you some passages from the filth this board has been unable to remove from our school system. She became more and more promiscuous as she recalled the days of her youth when she was a prostitute in Egypt. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emissions were like those of horses. And so you longed for the lewdness of your youth, when in Egypt your bosom was caressed, and your young breasts fondled. Ezekiel 23, verses 19 through 21. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how that got in there. We were talking about the soul-corrupting moral depravity of sexually explicit content in our schools, not the Holy Bible. What happened to the classics-based literary education of our fathers and forefathers? I mean, our kids should be reading classics like Shakespeare. I mean, who can forget Malvolio's memorable line in Twelfth Night, in which he spells out Olivia's letter to him, "This is my lady's hand, these be her very C's, her U's, in her T's, thus she makes her great P's." Or how about Aaron and Demetrius' exchange in Titus Andronicus? "Thou hast undone our mother." "Villain, I have done thy mother." I can do this all day. Sex and sexuality are part of the human condition. We can find sexually explicit content everywhere in the world in which we live. It's in mathematics. The Fibonacci sequence describes the reproductive habits of rabbits. It's in foreign language. I mean, Ovid's Ars Amatoria is a 2,000-year-old guide on picking up women in ancient Rome. Sexual language and sexual explicit images, even those we consider pornographic, they cover the walls of the pyramids. Some of the oldest artifacts we've ever unearthed from our earliest ancestors, they're fertility idols. They're sex toys. Sex is part of what makes us human. And our teenagers, our high school students, they're just as human as the rest of us. They're struggling with what it means to become adults in an era where they have sexual feelings, where they are exposed to sexual media, whether it's in our schools or not, where they have sexual relationships, whether we want them to or not. If we don't let them think about those things, if we don't ask them to address those ideas in our schools, in their literature, in the media they consume, how can we ever expect them to take it seriously? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. That concludes our public address for the evening. I'm going to move on to consent items. If no one wishes to move an item out of consent, we will consider these items approved. Okay, I guess we're good. Payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of bills as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a second. Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Trabaka?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson? Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion passes. Do I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the financial summary report?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Trabaka?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson? Yes. Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion passes. And we'll move on to our business meeting. Report from the superintendent. You've been here for a whole 6 days now, so we expect to hear a very big update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's a pretty high expectation you've given to me. First and foremost, I just want to say publicly, I want to thank the Board of Education for selecting me for this position. I truly view it as an honor to be able to lead such a fine institution. And I actually drove down here Wednesday and started work on Thursday. And just in that short period of time, the school system, the honesty of the people that I've interacted with, their passion for what we do here, and what I've seen as far as the commitment of the people involved in this organization is reaffirming to me and tells me that I made the correct decision in coming here. And I'm really grateful for all of you taking the chance to me, and you have my commitment publicly. that I will do everything in my power to add value to this place and to honor the faith that you put in me, and I will not let this Board of Education down. You have my word on that, and I will give it my best at all times. I also want to thank all the staff and the community members who went out of their way to welcome me to this community, from the people working at the Speedway gas station to everyone that I've seen in the schools, to when I stop at the Food Lion or the Kroger, the bougie Kroger and the other one. I don't remember what the terms are for those. But it's been even at the DMV yesterday, you know, I come from New Jersey. It's a little bit of a different climate, and I was treated with such respect and compassion that it's going to take me a while to get used to, so I'm grateful. But I also want to thank Dr. Whitaker. She's been extremely helpful in this transition, and I know how difficult it is when you have one foot in one job, one foot in another, and another foot in a third job even. And she's been extremely helpful for me and a colleague in passing the torch, so thank you very much. I'm very grateful. In the short couple of days as I've been here, as Madam Chair said, I've been very fortunate to visit some of our schools, to interact in some of the classrooms and to see what goes on. And again, I'm coming from a place that didn't have the resources, didn't have the commitment, didn't have many things I've witnessed and how we work with our children with special needs and have them integrated in the general ed settings. It's really something that this board should be very proud of, and I'm just humbled to have been selected and given this opportunity. And I don't really have a lot to report in 4 days, but I just want to let everybody know that, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Bragan. I would like to personally welcome Dr. Bragan to the board. So glad he's here. Unfortunately, this will be the last meeting I'll be chair at. Well, you're just joining. This is my last meeting as chair. I will not be asking to be chair at all next year. So I have a lot going on in my life right now. My parents are elderly, and I've had to care for them quite a bit lately. So I'm very thankful to everybody on the board for your support. Thank you for everything this year. I'd like to say I've enjoyed it all, but then some of it's been kind of difficult. But it has been a learning experience, and I look forward to passing my gavel on to someone else. So that's my little report. And we are going to move on to an update on the CHS construction.
I believe Mr. Lowe is going to give that update.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Bragan. This evening, I'm going to give you a quick update on where we're at with Christiansburg High School renovation project. If you might be aware that on November 18th, the architect turned over the DD, which is a design development drawings, to Branch, our contractor for this, so that they could begin working with their subs to get us an initial GMP price. So that process is going on right now. According to the schedule that you see up here on the board, we anticipate a GMP after the holidays. They're struggling right now with vendors trying to get pricing and materials. It's just that time of the holidays. They're trying to finish jobs, and people are leaving for vacations, and there's not a lot of response out there. So I want to let you know where we're at with this. Now we have, thank you. So one of the first phases of the project that we want to begin is what we're calling phase 0. And that is basically setting up the temporary bus loop where the current student parking is. As you're looking at the screen, it's to the front left. You see the orange arrows, and you see the black line. Within that black area, that is the parking for students. Okay, and the orange arrows is the bus traffic. That is the bus flow. So they will come in, make that right off of Independence, and then flow and drop off back there at the rear of the softball field. And bus students will have a point of entry back there behind the softball field and beyond where the new addition is going. And then they will just continue around the loop and on back out onto Independence. Carpool is the blue line that you see on the far right, where they're coming in Independence, making a right, and they'll follow all the way back up to the end of the cul-de-sac, do a turnaround, come back, and the students get dropped where your yellow line is, And their point of entry for carpool is right there at the back end of the building, near the maintenance service area. So that is the proposed circulation plan that we're planning to use during construction. And the work, if you can go to the next slide. So this is existing site conditions, and basically what that means is it's existing parking lots. As you see, the student parking lot in the orange has about 294 spaces. That's lot A. And then we have other lots throughout the facility, lot B, 43, C, 52, lot F, 30, 43 in the back, and G. And so what's going to change with that bus loop is lot A is going to lose some parking. So if you can go to the next slide. And you see we will drop to 182 spaces there. But we do pick up 80 spaces in lot H, which is in the far right-hand corner, the gravel lot over near lot F, where the trees are kind of buffering that parking lot. So those are, but what they want to do is this phase 0 is they want to do it during winter break. They need at least 2 weeks to do this work. This 2 weeks coming up for winter break is the only 2-week break we have between now and next summer to do that work. Otherwise, we would push everything next summer further down the line. So the opportunity to jump on this is available. They have already Branch has already worked and got a price for this first phase, and they have a low bidder. He called me this evening and let me know that they have someone ready to jump on the project as soon as we give them the okay. So I'm available for any questions you may have. Yes, ma'am.
Because they're going to be in this barricaded lot, because it said it had a barricade, right?
Yes,
around
the Jersey barriers.
So how do they get into the school? They're going to have buses going around them, and I'm just wondering what the walking path is for them to get from their cars into the school.
It's not showing on the plan, is it?
And it's like they're sort of stuck in the lot.
Verify that, but if I'm not mistaken, there's some gates and pedestrian crosswalks.
Yeah, you're right, Mr. Lowe. Our previous drawings did show those crosswalk areas within that. So what I can do, if you'd like, while we're meeting, is try to pull that previous drawing up for you. But we did have a designated area where they would be walking across those.
You don't have to change it. I just wanted to make sure there was a walking path into the building for them, especially with buses zipping around.
Going through, yes.
And on the same concept, the up where the car loop is, because being familiar with that area, that's a good little walk from that road all the way to in where it's like what I remember it as the cafeteria entrance in the back. And
A loading dock?
yeah, it's like a loading dock. I mean, that's a good little hike there. And plus, I don't know if any cars could not get down in there and get turned around and get back out.
With temporary fencing and cones, we can create a walk.
Okay.
That would get them from point A to point B.
Gotcha.
That's something we can.
And did you say that would only be in effect for 2 weeks?
No, it's going to take 2 weeks to begin the work and finish the work.
Gotcha.
Okay,
To
so,
create those 2 parking lots.
yeah, so with the car loop, it shows how the cars go in, and then it shows them coming back, and it's kind of dead-ended. Do they drop the kids off where the yellow arrows are at, and the kids do that, because that's a nice little hike, that walk, and then the cars go right back out where they came in onto
ma'am.
Independence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
mean, based on how I was understanding it, and I could be wrong, but like that little box there, it says primary point of entry for students from car lot. That arrow points up to that upper, like northeastern corner of the building. Is that where they're actually entering into the school? Okay, so that yellow little thing is just for maintenance vehicles, right?
Oh, okay.
So they're not walking that path outdoors.
The primary point of entry for students from the car drop line, you're correct. It's the far rear right portion of the building.
I mean, to Jamie's point, I mean, that's still a long
Oh,
walk.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah,
Inside
yeah,
the
yeah, I
building,
get you.
I assume, if you're, depending where you're going, but at least it's indoors, right?
Okay, so the yellow line is a little deceiving. Yeah, I see what you're saying. They drop off at the doorway back in the back of the building. Yeah, so the yellow line is what I thought they were dropping them off there. That, yeah, I got you. Okay, thank you.
It doesn't on here. It looks like it's one way.
That would have students basically dropped off at our CTE portion of the building. And if you've got to go all the way to gym or the science, you've got quite a height to get. So have we timed how that's gonna work for students to get in the building, get where they're going first thing in the morning? Or are we telling folks you better leave a little early?
So we have been communicating with our students throughout the year. We started the year, and I do want to remind the group too, just Mr. Lowe joined us, as we've already been working on this. So he's been doing a great job getting up to speed, but did join us very recently on the team. So some of these conversations he wasn't necessarily there for. We did communicate to parents very early on and students, so they purchased a half a year parking pass, and then right now have the opportunity to purchase a parking pass for the second component of the year. In terms of that drop-off spot, being actually, I'm a mom who's dropped my kid off at that school a bunch of times. So in terms of how long it takes, I think it's just a relative matter because before kids might have been coming in the other side and walking to that spot. So I think it's kind of a balance of, some kids were entering in the front of the building before and then walking back to that corner, whereas now they might be entering at that corner and walking to the front of the building. The parent loop, I think the biggest piece there is going to be getting parents to understand that traffic pattern. One of the things that happens is folks sometimes think I can just bypass and drop my kid off somewhere else, or come in the back exit over there and get in front of the line because, maybe we don't want to wait in that line. So I think the biggest piece will be making sure that we have an established traffic pattern when we first start. And so we would have staff out there for a couple of days in order to direct that traffic. The principal's done a really good job. Mr. Jones is communicating with our families about what's going on. He's already let them know about the drop-off locations, and the kids already are aware of the parking pass components. So he's gotten ahead of that piece. I think that will really help, and then we'll have staff on site to help with that pattern of traffic, and then, just asking folks to follow it. And if that line is too long, then please put your children on the bus and let them ride the bus to school, because they have that option available to them. Now, I say that with a 17-year-old who would not like me saying that out loud, but that's what I would tell her, ride the bus if that is, something for you. So I think it's really a matter of communicating effectively with our families, making sure they know what is going on, and then having staff on hand. Once we get that traffic flow established, I do not think it will be difficult, but what we don't want to have to do is change it over and over again. So, as that addition begins in the front of the building, we don't want to use that as a piece of a traffic pattern and then change it change it again and change it again. And so when first on, we talked about traffic and how we wanted to impact the schools, with the idea, remember, we were going to start in this fall with this, and we said, let's push it off and wait. So the idea being having to change that traffic pattern as few times as possible. We feel like this will get us all the way through that project.
So Dr. Whitaker, if you hold that thought for just a minute.
Sure.
So the traffic pattern is of concern to me as well with the leaving for the day than it is coming in, because we've already had many issues with exiting because we only have 2 exits, one of now which we can only go to the right in the back of the school when before we could go left or right. So that's limited the exit at that back area for people who need to head towards Blacksburg Way. I do think the constricted parking with the fewer number of students in the senior lot will probably help with that. However, my main concern is, one, making sure that the buses can get out of there on time to go make their next stop because they do have a whole nother load of kids that they've got to pick up after the secondary schools, which I have stopped people behind me to let the buses out. They haven't been real happy with me, but I've done that on several occasions. And then the fact that the students are needing to get out of that same parking area because you've got the buses and the students now trying to get out of that one exit. So do we have any kind of plan there, hopefully, to kind of do something to kind of regulate that traffic pattern going forward with the exiting?
So I will be honest and say Mr. Jones may, there he is right there. He may have a specific plan that he can come up and tell you, but what I would say is I'd recommend different release on different times, right? So you release the students riding the buses first, you let them go, and then you release your drivers second.
Okay.
So that you're not having, kids who are wanting to get out in between them would be my recommendation. And I believe they already have some kids who actually are waiting for that second route to come around. But Mr. Jones, is there anything you'd like to share on that? Absolutely.
Dr. Bragin, board members, board chair, we've already come up with a plan, just looking at what Josh has given us. The buses will leave first, and we will have staff out for the student vehicles on that regular lot. So once that first run gets out, kids can get out. By the time the second run comes in, most of the kids be gone. On the auditorium side, if you will, we'll be able to police that too. Just like we do now, our school resource officer lets us out. So we'll do the same on the auditorium side. And we're also working with that entrance that comes off of Independence the back way in the morning. We may want to block that off so people don't congest that. So we've already told our families about what's going to happen very soon. And even in April, when they block it off again, we also have parking for our faculty in the auditorium lot because we'll lose space in the front.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So you all probably mentioned this earlier. How many spaces will we lose once we do this?
I'm with you, Chris. I always want it to be a touchscreen too.
So we go from 294 in Lot A to 182, so that's 112. But we gain 80 over in Lot H.
Okay, it's not marked. There we go.
Yeah, and we ran those numbers based upon what we had been selling for student parking lots to make sure that we would have enough spots. But again, was why we split it half year, because we didn't want to sell a parking spot that we might get down the road and not be able to see. And so I don't know how many individuals have already purchased. I know Dr. Whitaker got a text very quickly from her child, please pay my parking fee. So I don't know how many we have sold, but I would bet that it's pretty close to the number that we were at previously is what we'll sell.
I'm curious, as a CHS student, do you have any thoughts about this?
I think it might be a good idea with the bus loops, with sending out the students at different times. My only concern is just students saying that they're riding the bus and then they end up just getting in their car and going. But if we have a police officer stopping that traffic, then I think we should be good. I'm not sure for these other like circular areas in the front of the school and the plans, are those going to be open to us or is it going to all be construction? It's like at the bottom corner right there, beside the lot D26, that little square.
The green?
That's a building. The green is the building that's over there beside Lot D.
On the other side, there's the asphalt area that's a little square. It's small, okay.
Oh, where they pull
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So that will not be student parking. That's kind of an entry access place. And then those spots in D are where people would park.
Okay. But they would enter beside lot D, and then if they were to take a
right.
take a left. Yeah, if they were to take a left and go, yeah, and then just go down that way. Is that space going to be available, or is it all going to be construction?
I believe that's going to be staff parking. It's not going to be, I mean, it's available space for parking, but it is not parking, it's not going to be shut down. There's not going to be a renovation there, except where you see the blue. At some time, that part will get closed.
Okay.
But then, the remainder of it will be available for parking.
Okay.
But it will be designated parking.
Well,
Right, not for students just to pull in because it's a spot.
It used to be the senior lot. I'm not really sure how Mr. Jones has decided to put.
but that little area right there is just a cut through.
Yeah,
And that's just
that's just
a
going
drive-through.
From there.
And the parking lot is
Yeah.
more
I
up
think he's
there.
talking about, are you speaking about E, Renard?
148 right there, yeah. Right below it, that's just a cut through. That's like a drive-through.
Not the blue spot.
Okay, the blue spot area, which is the area by the auditorium, we have really two entrances there, one low and one high.
Right.
So our traffic will be probably one way coming in and coming out, which will make it a lot easier. So it'll almost be like a C, if you will. And Lot D is for a Corps of Cadet area. But we have the traffic pattern all set. So even when parents come to pick up their children in that bigger area, we have traffic that can come in like a C. And once again, we'll have staff out there to kind of direct traffic back out to Independence.
Right. Just a question while you're there, not talking about the traffic, but the foot traffic of the students that are coming through. I can't remember exactly, but I'm thinking that's auto mechanics, correct? And that's where the bays are, right there, if they're let off at that door right there. Is there an area right there that's not in the auto mechanic bay? Like
The
where
bays are right where you are.
exactly, where she's, that whole area.
That's in the general area of the bays. The bays are a little bit further down.
Right, but I mean, is there like, I can't remember, but is there like a
There's a-
walking area through there? Will we have to do something to make it a little more feasible that kids
On the-
aren't like over in the auto mechanic?
On the
area?
back side of that, where Lot F is, they will be creating an area where you can get to where the old, I call it the old weight room.
Right,
Because what will be there will be our nurse as well as guidance area, counseling office. So back there we'll be creating a temporary walk area so you can get there.
okay,
And you could probably enter through the back part of the building. But that main area near, I guess, the loading dock is where you'll be able to come in. And really, be honest with you, it's a shorter distance than the distance from the student lot to the front doors.
right, right, yeah, now, once I understood they were dropping them off up there in the corner, I get that. I was just thinking from that area until you get to the hall, that there's auto mechanics and the bays are right there.
Right.
So I didn't know if there was a area, so students aren't like all, I'm sure the auto mechanics teacher is not gonna want students, oh, hey, check his car out, hey, come over here, in their work area. So that's why I couldn't remember if there was somewhere a space
Oh, it is.
designated.
It's
Okay.
it's enough space
Before
there.
you get to the hall, going into the career and technical education.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
So we have our paths all squared away, and we're ready when we have to utilize it. Okay, thank you.
See if anybody else. It just lets us see if anybody else.
Any other comments? Are we all good?
And we'll break ground in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Do they need our approval for that first phase that we're talking about, or is that?
Yeah. This
Okay,
is just
good.
As long as there's no objection, to moving forward with phase 0, we do feel it's very important to get moving at this time. But wanted to make sure, everybody is aware, we are still waiting on that guaranteed maximum price. We have made the county aware of that as well, just so you know. But we just wanted everybody to see that parking lot and, what that's going to look like and the excitement of when we get kids out. They are ready to go as soon as we are ready to let them.
Okay. Next up, we have the review of bus behavior matrix. Dr. Bragan, I'm going to teach you something this evening. When the red light is on in your microphone, it means your microphone's not on. So you have to hit the button, and when there's no red light, that means your microphone's on.
Thank you.
You'll notice that we still struggle with that also.
Good evening, members of the board, Madam Chair, Dr. Bragan. As you are aware, we are focused on how we can hire and continue to retain our school bus drivers. In speaking with our current drivers, benefits and student behavior were some of the common issues mentioned by many of them. With Dr. Whitaker's help, we collaborated with curriculum to help develop a plan to provide tools and training that would assist our drivers to address this issue. Dr. Johnson, would you like to explain our process?
Members of the board, Madam Chair, Dr. Bragan. In an effort to generate some consistency throughout the division with our bus drivers and our administrative teams, the bus behavior matrix was created. This document was vetted by many different teams throughout Montgomery County Public Schools, including our leadership team and all school principals throughout the division. To also gain the support of all of our bus drivers and to also collaborate and communicate with each community, Mr. Walters and we met with a bus driver from each community to review and assess the bus behavior matrix to try to see if we need to make any necessary additions, deletions, or also revisions. On November the 8th, which was the district-wide professional development day, Mr. Walters and I reviewed the bus behavior matrix with all bus drivers in Montgomery County Public Schools. The bus drivers were quite appreciative of the help and the support from central office on ways that we could work with them to minimize bus behavior, issues on our buses, and also how we could promote consistency throughout the division. I am pleased to say that since the induction of this document, we are pleased to announce that we have seen a reduction in bus behavior incidents throughout all of Montgomery County Public Schools. We are quite appreciative, once again, of also not only just the collaboration of the leadership team, all principals, and our bus drivers for their help and their support of this document, but we also would be remiss if we did not thank our parents and our guardians from each of our communities for following up with some of these expectations that were set forth by our school board, for making sure that they communicate with their students and their children about the expectations for riding our school buses, and also following up the rules and the guidelines set forth by the division. So we are quite happy, once again, about this process and how this matrix has unfolded with helping us get some of our bus behavior issues under wraps. Any questions from the board?
I'm just glad to hear there's been an improvement and that the community understands it takes all of us to make this work.
Yes, ma'am. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on now to academic reviews and division monitoring. And it looks like it's Dr. Wickham and Mr. Pauly.
Good evening, Board, Madam Chair, Dr. Bragan. This evening, Mr. Pauly and I will be sharing some information with you about academic reviews and division monitoring. Under state law, student outcomes drive an academic review. For a school to be level 1 or green, when you look at what used to be their school report card, now it's called their school quality profile, 75% of all of their tested students have to pass their English SOL test to meet the benchmark, and it's 70% in math and 70% in science. So if you take a look at the Code of Virginia, it says that if any of these academic achievement indicators for all students is at a level 2, so that means they didn't meet their benchmark, they're at a level 2, then they have to participate in an academic review. And if schools have any of these school quality profiles at a level 3, then they also have to complete an academic review. So what is an academic review? That first bullet really outlines it well. It's a process designed to help schools identify and analyze instructional and organizational factors affecting student achievement. As you go through that list, it requires truly an in-depth look at multiple data sources. It's conducted under the guidance of the VDOE, and at the end, you're working to identify required actions to improve student achievement. So the second thing that we'll be talking about tonight is division monitoring. So what is division monitoring? If a school quality indicator is at level 2, the division then works with the school to revise the school's improvement plan. So in that process, you re-examine the school's needs assessment, the needs assessment that they underwent to create their plan. Then you work to revise the plan. Then you monitor and ensure the implementation of the plan of research-based best practices. You evaluate the progress, continue to work to revise the plan as needed, and then you submit a monitoring form at the end of the year to the VDOE to certify that you actively monitored those schools. As you can see here on this list, as a result of student performance on last year's SOL test, 4 schools required academic review this year, and 4 schools required to be actively monitored by central office. Mr. Pauly's going to talk to you about the schools that are required to complete academic reviews.
Thank you, Dr. Wickham. These next few slides really just put into action for you the parameters that Dr. Wickham explained, what gets a school into academic review. So when you look at Auburn Middle School, you'll see they are an academic review because of that level 3 in science. They also have a level 2 in achievement gap for English, but that alone would not have put them into an academic review. It would have just been division monitoring. But the red in science puts them in academic review. Likewise, at Christiansburg Middle, the level 3 in science puts them in an academic review. But even if that had been green, the level 3 in achievement gap for English would have also put them in academic review. So they have 2 reasons that they are in academic review. For Shawsville Middle School, the yellow in English, the level 2 in English all students, as well as the level 3 in science, both of those factors put that school into academic review. The level 2s in English and math achievement gaps would have actually just put them into division monitoring, but when we did the academic review, we looked at all of those factors. And finally, Eastern Montgomery High School is in academic review because of that level 2 in science. Again, alone, the level 2 in achievement gap in English would not have put them in academic review. They would have just been in monitoring. But it's that level 2 in all students for science that put them in academic review. So we have 4 of our secondary schools in academic review. This is really just a screenshot of what we provide to the state that outlines all of our schools summarized on one page. The top 3 schools are the secondary schools that are in monitoring, and the bottom 4 are the ones in academic review that I just spoke to. Dr. Wickham did a good job of explaining the purpose of conducting an academic review. Once again, as she said, it starts with student outcomes. So based on a certain level of student outcomes, the state contacts us and says, we need to conduct an academic review for those schools, and they offer to come down and do it themselves, or they ask if someone at the division would like to lead that process. And I led that process for all 4 schools. There was some training involved and some preparation, and then I led those schools in that process. I don't think it's in these slides, but I think it's important to point out that the academic review teams are about 50% school staff and 50% central office staff. So there are certain members of the central office staff that are required to be a part, but then we also pick teachers from each of the content areas under review, as well as academic coaches and, of course, the principal. This just shows the 5 steps. We are in step 5. So we are in the final stages. We have done all of those other steps, and we are now currently just met with the principals yesterday to develop essential actions. I complete the academic review report, and they update their CSIPs, and we turn all of those in. They're due in January, but we're going to have those in before winter break. A lot of words on this page, but just to kind of give you a view of what it looks like, we are told to have the principals provide certain artifacts for the team to review. So in this particular case, we look at instructional leadership. That's basically asking the question, do the principals of those schools provide clear expectations and clear guidance to support teachers in those expectations? And that's evidenced by these artifacts. What principals did in that column that says link, they would just put links to like their master schedule, their intervention schedule, their watch lists, et cetera. So it was all electronic. We were all in the same room at the same time. We were all looking at the same artifacts, following the rubric that the state provides for us with the criteria. And I'll show you that in just a second. That just goes on to show the rest of the artifacts. That's quite a lot of work on the principal. The principal at each school has to gather all of these materials, turn them into electronic documents, and put links in the right column. But once they've done all of that, the academic review itself goes quite smoothly. So in addition to looking at instructional leadership, we look at classroom lessons. So we look at alignment with standards, and we look at the quality of teaching experiences. And we do that through examining representative lesson plans that the principal provides as one of the artifacts. And we also look at teacher observations, which give us a nice window into what the principal has observed in actual classrooms. The reviewer tools that the state provides asks us to categorize things as either no evidence, that there's no artifact evidence that there's anything to address the particular criteria, or that it's we're under initial implementation, we're just getting started, or partial, which means there's evidence that we're making actually pretty good progress, and then full, of course, means like we're really all the way on top of it. And then you can see there the instructional leadership criteria. Here are the actual classroom lesson criteria. If you notice, again, it's split into 2. We look at the same artifacts, the lesson plans and the observations, but we first look at them through the lens of are they aligned to the standards, and then we look at it through the lens of are the learning experiences of high quality, are they engaging, and are they aligned with the standards as well. So they give us the criteria, and they give us the rubric to rate them. Based on everything that they gave us, the criteria and the rubric to evaluate them, we all came to consensus, which means everyone in the room, the teachers, the principals, the central office staff, all came to the consensus that these are what we need to work on in order to effectively and positively impact our student outcomes. And so there are a list of things there. They are basically summary. It's much more in the report itself, the academic review report that you will all see a copy of eventually through Dr. Bragan, will be more detailed. It will show these are the findings, these are the things we need to work on. Then the principals will identify action steps and evidence-based interventions. Yeah, I think it's a little redundant to have put this slide in, kind of said all of those things already, but we are to put it all together into an academic review report and a revised CSIP that we send off to the Office of School Quality.
So for those schools required to complete division monitoring. So how's it a little bit different? How's it implemented? So for these, we do monthly school visits with the principal. We have quarterly division meetings where the principal comes in and meets with a team in central office for support. And we look at some of the same artifacts that Mr. Pauly talked about. It's just a less involved process, if you will. So schools required to participate in division monitoring. How do you get here? All right, so let's revisit academic review. If in that first column that you see there, the academic achievement column where you have all students for English, math, or science, if any of those are yellow or a level 2, then that's an academic review. If anything on here is red, that's an academic review. If you go to that second column, because the first column here is all green, the second column speaks to achievement gaps. So for Bellevue, for example, they're in division monitoring right now because of achievement gaps for students with disabilities in both English and math. And essentially what that means is that those students with disabilities, 75% of those students who were tested at Bellevue did not pass their SOL test in reading, and 70% did not pass their SOL test in math. So our next school, Blacksburg Middle School. It's students with disabilities for reading. Again, that means that fewer than 75% of those students who tested with IEPs passed their English SOL test. Auburn High School, also it's students with disabilities for English, and they also, they're under monitoring for missing the federal participation rate of 95% for students who are economically disadvantaged or receive free or reduced lunch. And basically, under federal accountability guidelines, 95% of students at least have to participate in testing. And you can see here, Christiansburg High School, they're under division monitoring because of achievement gaps for students with disabilities. And the last thing that we want to share with you, the VDOE, they've created this learning needs dashboard. And if you go to this, it's meant to be a user-friendly tool so you can click on it and see where schools are now compared to where they were before COVID, before the pandemic. So you can drill down to all reporting groups and again see how they performed on last spring's SOL test compared to SOL tests that they last took prior to the pandemic. Questions?
So, Dr. Wickham, so that's great. We get all this together, and then when do we know? Do we have to wait all the way till they take the SOL, or are there checkups in between that give us data to look at?
That is an excellent question. So we do give the growth assessment tests throughout the year, but technically we do not know if we've made it until we take SOL tests. And of course, at the secondary level, at the high school level, they take SOL tests throughout the year pretty much, but at the elementary level, it's the end of the year. So we really will not know for sure until next August.
Okay.
Sure.
I would just like to add something to that, Ms. Graham. Yes. I think you've hit upon the reason why it's important to have assessments throughout the school year that are aligned with the standards. Absolutely. We absolutely do not want to wait until the end of the year to say, we think we've taught all of these standards, and now we give the SOL test and find out less than 70% of the students are able to pass it. So that's why we're working towards, and elementary's been doing it for a long time, secondary is just beginning, to do common assessments that are aligned to standards so that we can put data teams together at the schools and periodically look at those results and readjust throughout the school year rather than wait to the end and kind of say, oops.
Yeah, because not only does it reflect on the school itself, but it's that child who continually says, I'm not good enough, I can't pass this, I can't do well. And that loss of self-confidence lasts for a long time.
And as far as reading and writing, when they get to high school, we don't test them until the 11th grade. So that's all the more reason why we want to do those common assessments that are aligned to standards throughout the courses of English 9, 10, and 11, so we are more confident that students are adequately prepared to pass the assessment.
And I think one of the things that we always say, right, is behind every single data point, there's a face of a child. So at the elementary level, We have, one math data meeting each month. We have one reading data meeting each month. We have meetings to, like Mr. Pauly said, we have multiple assessments that we can look at, but we look at that data and then determine what kind of interventions can we put into place to make these students, to help them, support them, and get them closer to that mark. I think it's also important to take a look at this in terms of, too, of that growth assessment piece, because keep in mind what you saw here also reflects growth. And we did have the opportunity to have growth points last year, even for those students who didn't pass their SOL test, but they showed significant growth from the fall to the spring or from last spring to this spring.
And we can use that as a passing score, right? If they prove, no?
So that becomes...
Me, because I know that they now allow something for significant growth.
Okay, so it's two different things and it gets really confusing, but for the report card that you just saw, that's state accreditation. So you get to use the growth piece towards accreditation. Okay, so that shows growth. Then there's the separate piece, which is just the pass rates. And technically right now, what they're proposing is separating the two out. Separating the two out so that one is about accreditation and the other one is about accountability and just looking at pass rates. So currently that is something that's been proposed by the VDOE, but these scores do reflect growth.
Okay, great, thank you.
To me, this is maybe a wider discussion that we have kind of in slow motion, I think, over the last, I've been on the board for 7 years now, and for a long time, there was kind of the feeling of, we're against testing, we don't like testing, and, now, Carl's saying, hey, it's really important that we test, right? And I understand it. I understand the importance of data. I just think that on this issue, it's an issue that requires some finesse and some balance in how we do things and where we target things. And I know from my own child, the reports that I get about the level of testing and assessments and things like that. So I certainly, and I don't think I'm alone as a parent to say that I certainly wouldn't want to see us go in the direction of, an overabundance, let's say, of testing. So anyway, that's, I think, something that would be good to tackle with.
So I think, one of the things that I do each year, I train new teachers in how to administer the MAP test that we give at the elementary level. And when you ask teachers what the purpose of testing is, almost every single time when I ask this question, they all say the same thing. The purpose of testing is to get data to guide instruction. And that's really what it's about. It's about how do we use this information to guide our instruction for our students. But then the reality is we know at the end of the year we're going to take an SOL test and we're going to be held accountable for it. But really it's about instruction. They would all, I bet you 99% of them, if you ask them that question, they would say, well, yeah, we assess students. We want to know where they are so we can, help them grow.
Yeah, I'm not questioning that. But I'm just saying, I think it's an issue that is on the forefront of a lot of parents' minds, and I think that we need to, I do think that it needs a balanced approach, and it's something that I'm eager to see what Dr. Bragan's input will be on how to move forward on that, because what I'm saying is we've kind of had two different, we've kind of attacked it from both sides, and in some ways I feel like it's been a little bit maybe confusing or incoherent, at least to me as a school board member, but what do I know?
Can I say something?
I think,
I think, Mr. Chewbacca, it's not necessarily the frequency of the testing that I was speaking to, it's the alignment of the assessments to the standards. And that's what even the academic review bore out, was the assessments and even the lesson plans themselves are not aligning to the standards. They're activities, and they appear to be engaging activities, but they're not aligned to the content and rigor and cognition of the standards.
One of the
So
things,
that-
when you revisit our strategic plan, you'll see that a piece in there is about assessment and creating different types of assessment so that students can demonstrate learning in a whole variety of ways. It shouldn't just be that traditional multiple choice kind of test. We should see more projects and just different ways for students to be able to show learning. It doesn't have to be this, 100-question beast. Sorry about that, Ms. Franklin. I
That's okay,
apologize.
because what you are talking about is my question, or was my question, is especially with the areas of our students with disabilities, because it's consistent across the district, and we also have other groups of students that are in the same situation, and for decades trying to get those gaps closed. So if what we're doing as far as monitoring and assessing doesn't show us the different ways that we need to do things to make sure that all the children are getting the information they need so they can be successful, then what's the point?
And I appreciate that very much, and I think that's something that we've been working really hard on. The other piece that's coming up in the strategic plan, and we have it laid out for years, assessment and grading also go hand in hand, and this may be something very unpopular to say, but the research that we've done on grading says that grading should reflect mastery. And so if I didn't learn it the first go-round, then I should have a different opportunity to show that I've learned it and mastered it. And then by the end of that grading period, I should have an opportunity then to have a grade that tells my parents then that I've learned this material. So it's the direction that we're working to move in and spending a lot of time there. We hear you and we agree with you.
Unfortunately, at the end of the day, though, at the end of the year, they have to take an SOL test, which is a multiple choice test. And there are plenty of students who just are not successful at those types of tests. And so I think that's the conundrum, that we have, that you could do all these, identifying all these different ways of showing mastery, and I totally agree with all that as having been a teacher. But at the end, but I think part of what happens as a teacher, you also know at the end they have to take this SOL test, and so you train them to answer these multiple choice questions, and I think that's where it's a tough one. I'm not looking to you to give me an answer. I'm just saying that is, unfortunately, that's what the state looks at the end of the year. And
so you're right. And I think it goes back to something Mr. Chewbacca said. It's really about that balance. We absolutely need to give children the opportunity to have those traditional type assessments. That's what the SOL test is, but we also need to have projects. We need to have those brief little, checks that we do. We need to give children the opportunity to do again or do differently if they've learned it. So it really is very complicated, and you're right. Ultimately, you get to take the test one time. Mm-hmm. If you fall within, a certain range, within 25 points of passing, you get one more take at it. So that is what it does come down to. However, I would say the growth piece that Ms. Graham asked about was tremendously helpful to us this year. Giving children the opportunity to show growth really did make a difference.
And Mr. Polly's work at getting rid of final exams in our secondary, I think, is another testament to this same verification of mastery of the material.
That's going on ancient history now, isn't it?
Hey, no, I'll always fight for that one.
That was a good one.
I'm glad that
He
helped.
knows about history. Today is his birthday.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
oh,
What a way to spend it, right?
you want us to sing?
No, please. Dr. Wickham has already graced me with it. Even Dr. Bragan chimed in and sang.
Albeit off key, but
I wasn't going to say that, sir. But now you're making me forget what I was going to say. So, right. So in high school, I'd like to point out that David Dickinson and Michaeline Meyer have worked very hard over the past several years to bring in some project-based assessments or alternative assessments to testing. So we no longer, we're still phasing it out. We're in the last year of that. We no longer give a writing SOL test in 11th grade. They're doing a portfolio of different types of writing in 9th, 10th, and 11th, and it's embedded in instruction. So English teachers are teaching writing anyway, so it's embedded in their instruction around writing, and the product they produce in ninth grade, which is persuasive writing, gets evaluated and put in a portfolio. And then the second year, now I'm not going to remember the exact types of writing in each one.
Narrative.
There you go. And then there's a research one. And just starting this year in social studies, we've now seen Mr. Dickinson bring to fruition project-based assessment to replace the traditional SOL test in social studies. So they do several projects throughout the year, and they have to pass, in some cases, 3 out of 4, and in some cases 2 out of 3 in order to get the verified credit. It's really been excellent work. It's been a long time coming. The state has put a lot of this on hold, put up barriers over the years. They've been waiting it out. They've been planning. They've been preparing teachers, and we're finally seeing it come to fruition. So really now during SOL testing, students are in 11th grade taking reading, and then it's just science and math for everybody else.
That is so much better. That is a true testament to mastery of the material instead of memorizing.
And remember, we replaced traditional final exams with final cumulative projects.
Exactly. Yep.
So, yeah, I'm still on. So for me, with all of this, there's a key component, and that is reading.
Absolutely.
And when we're waiting to the 11th grade to make sure that our students are reading, something's wrong. So what are we putting in place to make sure at the elementary level we're getting this right so that we can help eliminate some of this at the middle school and high school level?
So that's a fantastic question. The direction that the state's moving in right now is all about the science behind how children learn to read. So at the elementary level, our textbook adoption that we did a few years ago was based on that science of how children learn to read. We're also offering letters training. So letters training, it's language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. And basically, if I were to just sum it all up, it's that focus back on phonics again. You know, I've been in education now for over 30 years, and the pendulum swings. Once upon a time, we taught phonics, and then we moved over and we didn't teach phonics. And basically, the science is saying, you guys have missed the boat. You need to be in the middle of the road. You need to teach phonics. You need to teach fluency. You need to teach vocabulary, and you can't throw phonics out. So that's really where we are at the elementary level with our benchmark adoption and our letters training. Is really looking at phonics.
Okay. So for all those students who are no longer in elementary school and are struggling, what are we doing to make sure we're getting them on the right track?
Mr. Pauly, would you like for me to take that one? Middle school? Okay. So at the middle school also, we actually started letters training at the middle school level. And the adoption behind Steady Sync, it was a state-approved resource because it is a textbook that's aligned with making sure that we teach skills and strategies. And typically at the middle school level, starting at the middle school level, by that point in time, our children should be able to comprehend. So we should, have the opportunity to focus on comprehension of material. Well, what we're finding, especially with the pandemic, is that we didn't catch all of the children at the elementary level who still don't know how to read. They're not strong readers. They're not necessarily comprehending. So now we're needing to spend more time at the middle school level and teaching strategies and teaching skills. And so that's what we're trying to do there.
Ms. Wickham.
They've gotten to high school. I'm not finished yet. If they've gotten to high school and they still haven't gotten that mastery, what are we doing? And when are we finding that out?
So, of course, we SOL test all throughout, and like Mr. Pauly said, the addition of the benchmark assessments in reading at the middle school should help us have a better look at those students who haven't mastered those skills, and then we're continuing on with that focus on those specific skills and strategies that those students need to be successful. So it's really wrapping back around to not just focusing on, that reading comprehension piece. What did we read? What did we get out of it? It's really teaching those skills and strategies of how to read. And it's unfortunate. What research tells us is that if a student leaves, if by the end of third grade, if they're not reading on grade level, it is awfully hard to get them caught up. So what we're hoping is that after we see a full implementation, starting with those children in kindergarten, all the way through now that we're really doing the letters training and using our benchmark, that we're going to have far fewer students leaving us at the elementary level who aren't reading. or who aren't good readers.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Penny, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So that's my main concern as well, and I know it's been a concern for a lot of others, and we've heard so much about where we have fallen behind on that. And it really is the basis for every subject. They say if you want to know about anything, read. And it will make you more fluent in every other subject. So, and I hate to ask for more work on anyone, but would it, or could it be a possibility that the board may get some type of presentation on the secondary reading and what all is being entailed there, or what we are doing, and just to kind of put it out there to the community to show that we know this has been a problem and we are aware of it and this is what we're working on to fix it?
I think we could do that. So specifically, you're looking for just an overview of what Study Sync is doing and what we're doing in the middle school and high school to really focus on those skills and strategies.
On the reading, on the secondary
Okay.
reading. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. And I believe Ms. Graham asked to see reading data a few meetings ago. So we do have some reading data from the state in terms of our PALS testing that we do across the state. And our data shows us that Montgomery County, we are doing much better than most of the divisions and above the state average. So we feel really good about what we've implemented now at the primary level.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wickham, and thank you, Mr. Pauly. I'm going to make a suggestion that we take a 5-ish minute break before we go to the rest of this. Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break. You're welcome. I just go for like a half hour.
No.
Find a little break to go.
I just had to do that one more time. Maybe I'll do it again. Okay, where are we? Advisory committee? Yes, advisory committees.
Yeah, basically those memberships are on this board agenda for review, and they'll be submitted for approval in the January Board of Education meeting.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about it? Marty, you look like you want to say something.
I was just going to make a motion to approve.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh,
I'll hold.
no, it's not up for approval.
Oh, it's not? I thought it was.
It's an information item. We're just supposed to review it, and it's going to be brought back on January 10th for review. Is there anything else we need to know about that, Dr. Whitaker? I caught you in the middle of taking a bite. Sorry. Okay, it's good. She says it's good. I got a thumbs up. Okay, so we will bring that back. Strategic plan update. Poverty. So we have a presentation.
For Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Dr. Bragan. That highlights the process that you've been through several times before. So for the matter of time and expediting the time, I will go straight to the next slide. The result statement says that the schools will direct the collection and distribution of information and services to students, basically through a designee. Action step, school councils were named to be in that position. The progress was completed, and the school liaisons, that was done as of October 22nd. The next action step speaks to schools creating and maintaining a resource document for all school-based community resources available to students and families to share with Central Point of Contact, basically which was our Family Engagement Resource Center, which we have, which is up and operational, but is still in the planning stage. Schools have been sent a document with a list of school-based resources that are utilized. I'm compiling that at the current time. The school document is going to be translated into other languages, and it's going to be updated annually. The NRVCS resources are being reviewed for any changes. We have a New River Community Services Board has a about 70-page document in which community resources throughout the New River Valley are listed, and we will just make sure that we monitor that document and that the most current information is in it. The next one discusses schools examining current practices involving the collection of information, registration, and ensuring the process is confidential, dignified, equitable, and accessible. That's still in the planning stage. The first phase of that, I created a document for back-to-school nights, which talked about several of the processes that the school needs to have in place. The next part of that will involve administrative assistants being trained on best practices. I'm going to expand the document to talk about the areas of housing, clothing, and food insecurity. Next action step deals with schools making resources available in digital and paper formats. That's still in the planning stage. And by the end of the 22-23 school year, we will have that completed. That makes sure that all those documents are in the formats that they should be in. Next action step deals with a registration hotline available to schools and families. That's still in the planning stage. The Director of Technology and myself will be working on that in the spring, and it will be up and operational in the 2023-24 school year. Our next result statement dealt with Montgomery County Public Schools and community partners will collaborate to meet the growing needs of students. That action step was the creation of the Family Engagement Resource Center, which we affectionately call FERC. Organized house, it's over in the Operations Center. If you ever are over there and you see door 21, that's where we have it. It's co-housed with the Parent Engagement Center for Special Ed as well. It's completed, and some of the highlights from that, it's up and functioning. We've given out this year 55 book bags with school supplies to students. We've given gas cards for families in need, coats to several families, cleaning supplies for families who experienced a house fire, and resources to 5 families living in a hotel. Our next action step deals with creating a community resource list by community. That's been completed, and the areas that were addressed in that community resource list were behavioral and emotional health, food, clothing, housing insecurity, as well as tutoring and mentoring opportunities. And that document is also divided up by community or strand. So we are aware of what community resources we have in each strand. Next action step deals with making the community list available, accessible, and equitable to all stakeholders. That, of course, is in the planning stage. For the descriptor, the resource documents will be available in digital and paper formats by the end of this 22-23 school year. The next action step addresses attending network meetings with area community daycares and local preschool programs to share information for kindergarten readiness skills. That's been fully implemented. Collaborative meetings and agendas for myself and the preschool administrator, or Emily Altizer, who is the administrator of federally funded programs, and we both attend monthly meetings, which are ongoing. Next action step deals with creating a meeting schedule for community resources and community partners annually. It's been implemented. Community partners establish those meetings. The administrator of family engagement and myself, the preschool administrator, attend those monthly meetings. We have the collaborative meeting agendas and minutes housed within our offices, and we attend those monthly meetings. The next one deals with resources available with community partners such as First Steps Network and School Readiness, still in the planning phase. For the descriptor, one school readiness flyer has been created, translated, and disseminated throughout the community, and another flyer is currently being created to share community resources and single point of entry for our preschools. In dealing with our partnering with community organizations who provide resources to support child development and school readiness, that has been implemented. The collaborative meeting agendas and meetings, once again, as I've said before, the administrator of family engagement and our preschool administrator, we are both members of what is known as First Steps. It's Early Childhood Network. It has membership with the United Way of Southwest Virginia, Head Start, or representation, I should say, the United Way of Southwest Virginia, Head Start, and private daycare providers such as Rainbow Riders and the Virginia Tech Early Learning Center, just to name a few. The action step dealt with having a single point of contact to disseminate information and how to connect families with that information. It's completed, and that was the creation of this position, of which I am able to execute those duties and functions. Next action step deals with schools determining kinds and needs of family engagement activities to take place and sending out a survey to families and faculties and staff. That's still in the planning stage. Myself and the Director of Student Services will develop a survey and distribute that survey. We will gather feedback from the surveys of families and faculty in the summer of 2023, and the implementation of family engagement activities during the 2023-24 school year will be implemented. Tier 1 PBIS teams will discuss, plan, and implement community events with intentionality based on data of attendance and needs. That's still in the planning phase. Student Services Department, along with each school's Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support, or PBIS team, will plan a variety of community events based on data such as attendance, discipline, minoritized or underserved groups. And with this second year, the day before Thanksgiving break, we had our second consecutive community outreach for one of our neighborhoods here in the community. We handed out about 50 Thanksgiving baskets. It's quite successful. The next action step addresses collaboration will take place with transportation to ensure families can attend outreach events and students can access after-school activities. As you well know, that's currently on hold. The action item is on hold due to the costs associated with transportation based on the feasibility study that was done. Next, existing. Yeah, I was going to say, are my 3 minutes up? No. Could they be up? The next action step deals with existing school events such as back-to-school nights, curriculum nights, open houses, etc., being intentional for meeting the needs of the school community. That's still in the planning phase. Myself, as the administrator of family engagement, is going to meet with the director of elementary education and secondary education and student services and safety to evaluate existing school events, with that information being gathered from school level administrators and leadership teams. The next action step deals with the division creating and evaluating procedure, which includes community events that have been held within the school and the level of attendance. That's still in the planning phase. The administrator of family engagement, myself, and the director of student services and safety will collaborate with school level community stakeholders in order to create an evaluation process for community events. Our last and final result statement deals with Montgomery County using research and evidence-based PD to build early childhood to 12th grade capacity and effectiveness with cultural proficiency. The action steps include professional development, addressing the complexity surrounding the experience of poverty, professional development points being maintained on a yearly basis related to equity and poverty, and identifying community and school professionals who will provide that PD. It's already been implemented. The Director of Elementary Education collaborates with administrators of curriculum and academic coaches to implement PD for effectively teaching students from poverty. That PD is currently implemented annually for all new teachers to MCPS, and the PD is going to be expanded to include all teachers. Some of the highlights that were not emphasized in this report that I'm glad to report on is that in addition to the roles that I've just stated, some of the other roles that I execute include facilitating Family Resource Team or FRT meetings, where we address attendance issues and collaborate with community partners such as court services, Department of Social Services, and behavioral emotional support agencies such as New River Community, NRVCS, New River Community Services Board, as well as the counseling group. We support principals, and I have supported principals in assisting families in need, and I've worked with students and their families to provide support to remove barriers associated with poverty. Also, I've received a Montgomery County Education Foundation grant, which we're going to do book bags. I'm going to probably do Kroger cards, or I've submitted that I'm going to do Kroger cards for families that may be in need of gas, because sometimes one of the situations that's happened, we've had no housing in the New River Valley, and families have had to go to Roanoke to the rescue mission because hotels and other things, resources that we have sometimes when families are experiencing housing insecurity, they have not been able to secure that in the New River Valley. Any questions?
Yeah, so I've got a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we're talking about communicating the Tier 1 PBIS to community, is that helping to explain how this process works and how we're trying to support students before we get to a level that they may be sent out of the school district?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we're going to the community to communicate that information?
Yes, ma'am. And a lot of schools and a lot of times that PBIS process is communicated with schools. When they talk about the process, when we talk about that, the levels of support and the triangle, tiers of support, Tier 1 intervention, Tier 2 intervention, and Tier 3 intervention. I know that when I was a principal, we sent information home about that.
Okay, so we can send it home, but folks don't necessarily get it or understand exactly what's going on, especially in the situation around poverty, and folks are really concentrated on more how to get food, how to stay warm, and have a roof over their head, and clothes. So when we're talking about engaging community and with events, if we're not either helping to provide transportation to bring folks to us, then are we figuring out how we need to get into community to have large meetings with those communities that we know are struggling?
Yes, ma'am. I've partnered with Blacksburg High School, Middle School, and Price's Fork Elementary, and we went to one of the mobile home communities. They hosted their open house in one of those mobile home communities. I helped some with the planning there. In our Auburn Strand, they planned, and I helped facilitate their open house amongst all 3 schools, and it was a big community gathering. So one of the action steps, or one of the descriptions that we had outlined, is specifically targeting minoritized groups or targeting other groups that fit into that low socioeconomic minoritized groups, looking at things such as data, looking at disproportionality, to see if that disproportionality is in a certain area or a certain neighborhood, and addressing that. The administrator of federal programs, Emily Altizer, and I really want to start reaching out to our Hispanic Latinx community and doing some things. We've got some Spanish teachers that are really interested in that, and some families, and actually the mobile home community that we targeted in Blacksburg. Out of those efforts in that open house, we found a 3-year-old student who was eligible for preschool, and we found a 9th grade high school student who had not enrolled in school yet. So we're doing some things to reach that. We need to do it to a greater depth, and we need to do it more
Aggressively?
Yes, more aggressively. Yes, ma'am, that's a good
Okay.
word.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
And I'll just say again, transportation's a big issue.
It is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. We are now up to the FOIA charging procedures. Ms. Drake will present to us.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Chair Cass, board members, Dr. Bragan. On August 2nd, the board voted to implement charging procedures for our FOIA requests. Since March of this year, we've received 56 Freedom of Information Act requests and have provided more than 7,000 records to requesters. Today, I'm just going to real briefly walk you through how the charging part of that process works. I think you are very familiar with, in general, how the request for records works. So I'm going to skip down to step 3, which is once we've determined that a request meets reasonable specificity, and I'm able to really ascertain what the person is asking for, I then speak to the appropriate staff member. So if we're talking about emails, I'm talking with the person in IT who can go into the administrative console and do that work. If we're talking about a request for proposal document, I'm talking to someone in purchasing, right? And I'm going to ask them about how much time they think it will take to gather the records that they requested. And then I tabulate the fee for the FOIA request based on the amount of time that they believe it will take them to gather the records, the amount of time that I estimate it will take me to review and provide any redaction necessary on those records. And then it does include the hourly rate for those employees who are involved. And then the requester receives an invoice for what it will cost to retrieve the records and an estimated timeline that is provided within 5 working days of receipt of the request. And then upon receipt of payment, the FOIA officer, that's me, I notify the appropriate personnel so that they can begin records retrieval. And then we provide those records, of course, in a suitable format. And I just want to note item number 8, which is that should the actual cost of retrieving and evaluating the records be less than the estimated cost, so let's say we overestimate how long it will take to get those records, the requester is provided with a refund that equates to the difference in time. So we catalog the amount of time that it takes. For me, when it comes to evaluating the records, that is the significant burden here. I stop that tally once I hit what I have estimated. Just to make sure that the person has gotten what they've paid for, right? And then I stop tallying from that point on. And then just a few pieces to note. These are the key languages in the state code, right? Except as otherwise specifically provided by law, all public records are open to citizens of the Commonwealth. Everything that we do is open to the public unless there is a piece in that FOIA statute that says it can be withheld. Right? There is not a lot of expectation for privacy, except for some really specific reasons when it comes to the work that we do. Public records requests have to be fulfilled within 12 working days, unless an agreement is reached with the requester to extend the timeline. And no public body shall impose any extraneous, intermediary, or surplus fees or expenses to recoup general costs associated with creating or maintaining records. Any questions about that process? Any clarification I can provide? Thank you.
Actually, I had one question. Brenda,
Oh, I
how
apologize.
are, so I guess how's it going? And is there any, I mean, this is probably good as any opportunity to let us know if there's anything that you think maybe needs to change or, I mean, 56, is it 56 this year or 56 since August?
Since March.
Since March.
We usually get about 5 a year.
Yeah, okay. So that's a lot. And I think that
That's a
was one of
lot.
the concerns that we had originally brought up was, you know, I mean, surely this is cutting in on your normal day-to-day duties. So, you know, is there a mitigation there or are we not at that point yet?
I think what we're seeing is an open dialogue and conversation between me as the FOIA officer and the requester. And so what we're able to do is sometimes refine a request, and I'm seeing that a lot, people submitting multiple requests. So they submit one that's really general, and we're talking about emails here, right? Everything else is so specific that it's easy to capture. But when it comes to the email request, typically it's a really large request, and then they see the records, the sheer volume of records that they would get, and then the estimated cost, and then it's, well, can we try this? And so I'm working again with IT. And so what I'm seeing is a lot more just conversation. You know, it is not my job to ask someone why they're asking for a record, but sometimes I feel like that question would really help us pinpoint so they could get the records that they're looking for instead of this behemoth volume. But I do think it's too early. You know, the pull of email just started. You as a board acted very quickly once you realized that that was happening at the level that it was, and you moved forward quickly. So I think we're still treading those waters,
Okay.
seeing what's happening.
All right.
Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. Okay, now we are up to the staffing update. Mr. Knott.
Madam Chair, Board, Dr. Bragan, I'm here tonight to present to you our monthly staffing report. As you can see, we have several positions that we're still working to fill here. Dr. Bragan and I are working on the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction at this time. We do have a elementary teacher at Falling Branch Elementary that we are currently accepting applications for. We still need a German teacher at Blacksburg High School. We do have 2 0.5 or part-time gifted teacher positions that are available right now, and they are at CES and CMS. We have 1 reading specialist teacher that's split between Auburn High School and Shawsville Middle School. And we have 2.5 special education teachers, 1 at CMS, 1 at AMS, and a 0.5 at Christiansburg Primary.
Before you move on to the next slide, can I ask something real quick here?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have 2 half-time gifted openings in Christiansburg, 1 in elementary, 1 in middle. Is it easier to recruit part-time people than it is full-time people?
It is much easier to recruit full-time people. Sometimes, though, the schedules don't line up.
Is that what it is here? Like this
And
couldn't be one person who
I
could do?
believe that is the case right now. Ms. Knaff and I have not spoken about that, but I need to talk to her about it.
Yeah, I mean, I only know from my own experience in recruiting that part-time people are harder to find than full-time people. I realize full-time would then require benefits, but.
Right.
But it might be worth the little extra cost if it's more efficient.
When you're working between levels, it makes it a little more difficult.
I guess that would make it a little harder too. I was just curious. Okay.
No problem. We need a STEM teacher at Eastern Montgomery Elementary, and we're currently accepting applications. We still have a carpenter and an HVAC technician position in facilities that Mr. Chris and John Sutton are working to fill. We have 5.5 custodians, 2.5 at Blacksburg High School, 1 at BMS, 1 at EMES, and 1 at SMS. We do have 1 in the hiring process for Blacksburg High School right now. So assuming that they get through the hiring process and everything checks out, they'll be down to 1.5 once that's complete. We need a school nurse at Falling Branch, and they are working on filling that. We have a vehicle mechanic, and Eddie is working on filling that. We have a candidate there as well, possibly. We do need a payroll benefits specialist in payroll at this time, and we are currently accepting applications there. I'm sorry, let me go back to that slide. That is a mistake on the slide
I was
that I
going to
just
say, it
noticed.
says candidate in the hiring
I
process.
just noticed that, and I apologize for that. That's my mistake.
I wasn't
We
going
are-
to call you out on it.
No, it's okay. I admit when I make a mistake. If you notice our bus drivers there, we have 2 bus drivers in training, and that will fill the 10
No
positions
way.
that we went to.
Hallelujah.
Spoke with Eddie today. Once those 2 bus drivers come on board, he will have a full staff of bus drivers.
Wow.
Just for your information on that, 70% of the 10, so 7 out of 10, are new hires. Only 3 of our current bus drivers chose to move to a 6.5 position, And we actually had a former bus driver call and say, I want my old job back, I want my old route back, and that route was available. And so they came back, and they only wanted a 4.5-hour position.
That's great.
We do have 2 bus aides. I'm sorry.
So this is just wonderful. And again, the thinking outside the box, how do we fix this? So when we go back up to our custodians, because you know I'm going to keep hitting it on that one, and in our budget coming up, we need to hire some more. Might be something we look at too.
I can tell you that Robbie Jones, our custodial supervisor, coordinator, has been working hard to try to fill positions. And recently, she has submitted requests to hire, I believe, 3 student custodians. So we are still hiring student custodians in positions and plugging them in where we have gaps right now. They don't work a full shift. They usually work 4 hours a night, but they'll go after school and when they finish school and begin their job then. So she has, just recently, we've hired 3 of those. We do have 2 bus aides that we still need to fill. We do have 2 special education aides, some lunch recess aides there that you see, and 2 instructional aides as well that we have left to fill.
This is also just a general question, but could we hypothetically offer it as volunteer hours for custodians after school?
Offer volunteer hours?
Yeah, for student custodians.
We have done that with some of our graduates that have been ACE students, but we have not yet offered volunteer hours for custodians. There's quite a bit of training that goes on with that, and so it may be hard to, have somebody come in and say, I want to volunteer one day. It needs to be more consistent, but that's something we can certainly talk to Robbie about and look at.
Okay, because I know a lot of clubs, even for the high schools, they require a lot of community service hours, so that could be an
Yep, we can look at that and see what we can do.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yes, sir. And then, oh gosh, I hit the wrong button again. As far as our trainers go, we now have 2 trainers. We have one at Christiansburg High School and we have one at EMHS.
Making slow progress.
Yes, we are making slow process, and we are still working with VCOM there. Any questions for me? I'm not leaving until y'all are done tonight.
I have substitute questions. So how do we know, I guess maybe this would be Dr. Widener's question, but you guys figure it out. How do we know if somebody's like moved out of the area and they no longer can sub, or they got a full-time job, not with us, but somewhere else?
Unless they notify us, we don't know. I would say most of our subs are pretty good about letting us know they've taken another job, they resign. They still get emails from us if they've done that, and if they're checking their email, that might remind them to let us know. We do purge our substitutes at the end of the school year. We will ask who wants to return, and if they don't reply to that,
Right.
or if they reply no, then we purge them out. So if you notice at the beginning of a school year, our sub numbers are lower than they are as the year goes on.
Sure.
And that's because of that purging of the individuals that aren't coming back.
So second question, what if somebody's, here we are, 3-4 months into the school year, and somebody hasn't subbed? So why are they still on our sub list? I mean, do you see what I'm asking?
I do. I guess we're still hoping that maybe they will start subbing. Sometimes there's, we do get a lot of college students, and I think that's mostly where we're going to find this situation is with our college students. They think they're going to sub, then they get into taking their courses, and then they get bogged down, and then maybe they stay here over Thanksgiving, and they sub a couple of days there. Maybe in January, early before the semester starts, they come back and sub a few days there. So I think that would be why we really wouldn't want to take them out right now, because we might be missing out on some opportunities with them.
Right.
Well, and for example, like my daughter-in-law, she can only sub at certain schools because of her children being in Auburn schools. So it might not, a couple come around, but every 2 or 3 months.
No, I was just asking, like, people who haven't subbed at all.
Right.
At all. We're in almost finishing the first semester, and Okay, just asking.
So with that, what's our fill rate with subs?
So we have had one day this school year where we were 100%. We had 50, and I'm talking only teachers here. We had 55 teachers out that day, and we had a 100% fill rate. Today, we had an 80% fill rate. We had 19 jobs unfilled. One school had, of the 19 positions, there was one school with 3 jobs that weren't filled, but they had 10 jobs total. We had another school that had 2 jobs not filled. They had 6 each. So they were 4 out of 6 filled. And then the rest of our schools that didn't have jobs filled had 1 sub job that was vacant. So they're fluctuating. We have looked at this wondering if the professional development days that we're doing are causing us to have lower sub-fill rates on those days, and they actually aren't impacting our low fill days. Our low fill days are still Fridays and Mondays.
So our full-time subs, how is that working out?
We have all schools except 1 filled with our designated subs, and we have 1 in the process of being placed there.
So how is that working well?
I think so. I think it's really helping to provide that extra person that they can count on every day. And then again, it's going to depend on how the principal manages that. You know, if they use that person the day before to fill a job, then they don't have that person the next day if they've got another vacancy. So hopefully they're managing them well, but everybody, all the principals that I've spoken with about it, they love having the designated subs.
So our administrative assistants in those areas, I know we were having difficulty getting folks in. How are things going? Or did I miss the wrong group?
Subbing for administrative assistants?
No, just filling those.
Currently, right now, they're all filled except for the one payroll benefit specialist at the central office. All other positions are filled. And that one has just become vacant, so we're advertising, we have it posted now and accepting applications. And Katie and Aaron Evans will be working on that probably next week, scheduling interviews.
Okay. I'll stop for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the MCPS transfer policy revisions. Does anybody present?
It's a first read.
It's a first reading, so we don't discuss it then?
Dr. Wickham and I can be available for questions.
Okay. I just wasn't sure who was doing what. Are there any questions? Oh, well then, I just gave you a little extra exercise. You look like you were getting kind of antsy there, Mr. Pauly. I figured I'd give you a chance to it's your birthday, you know?
Well, I guess it might be helpful to know exactly what the purpose of this
Yeah, I
is.
guess that was kind of what I was wondering, like, why are we doing this? Other than it's outdated, I saw that there's some of the dates in it were.
Sure. I'll speak to elementary. Mr. Pauly can speak to secondary. So essentially, a few years ago, we had passed a policy regarding transfer requests. And the policy that we passed did not really address the elementary level. And the practice at the elementary level, we were following what secondary was doing. So we needed to add that piece in to address elementary. And essentially, that says that in order for students to have a transfer request, unless there's a real special reason for it, we keep children within their same community so that when they're ready to move on to the middle school level, they're going into that middle school where they're supposed to be housed.
Not sure how much detail you're looking for, but generally speaking, we're just making the policy align with our practice. The one date that was in there was like a grandfather clause date, right?
2017.
Yeah, it was like 2017, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
pretty
was.
old. And based on that, we Dr. Wickham and I have been really following this same practice, that the one for 2017 said that if you were approved to attend a school outside your residential attendance zone, that you could finish out your time there. And so we sort of extrapolated that to apply if you were attending because you lived there and then you subsequently moved, but you stayed within Montgomery, we'd also let you stay there. So figuring if we let a transfer student stay, then we were going to let a residential student stay also, but that was only once they were in secondary. So we've been doing that for years, and now the policy matches that.
Okay, so nothing really drastically
Really,
has
nothing's changed in practice.
Okay.
I think the big piece, and it's not really changed, but we like to emphasize this with families. At the elementary level in particular, if you move from a school, we work really hard if you want to stay in that school, to keep your child in that school, with the understanding, though, if their middle school is in a different area, they have to go back to that middle school.
Wait, say that one more time?
So let's say I start my elementary career at Kipps Elementary.
Okay.
But my parents moved to Christiansburg. But I'm in third grade, I've already made friends with everybody. So if the parents put in for a transfer request and they can provide transportation, we approve that transfer request for them to stay at that elementary school so that we're not having to upset the apple cart until we get to a natural transition. Then when they finish up fifth grade, then they do have to go to Christiansburg Middle School where they're zoned.
Got it. Okay.
And we've maintained what we loosely call the sibling rule, right? So if you have you all know what that is. If you have a child that's already over here, you get to we try to keep families together.
Right. What is the policy for teachers?
So teachers can put in for transfer requests and their children can come to the school where they teach,
wherever they teach,
regardless. Mhm. The attendance area where they teach, yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much. So now we're at the transfer of funds between capital projects. Does anyone wish to make a motion regarding the transfer of capital funds?
I motion that we.
And I second it.
Hold on.
Oh, you didn't do it yet? Okay.
No, we do have to motion.
Yeah.
What are we motioning now?
I motion that we approve the transfer of funds between capital projects as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion on that? Okay, Ms. Drake?
Well, wait a minute.
Never mind.
So
We do.
why do we need to transfer funds between these projects?
Not because I just dropped my computer on the floor. So when when those three elementary projects were first started, we put some of the funds into one account, and really, when we got the bills, we really need them to go directly to the schools where they're associated with. So moving those funds into those accounts will allow us to pay the bills as associated with that school. And so basically, we had put more money in one school's account than in the other two accounts, and we just need to level that out to get it back over so that we can pay those bills.
If there was an allocated amount, a budget for each one of those schools, why was money not kept in those accounts?
So I cannot speak to why they were not originally set up the way that they should be. So it was established way back when those projects started. Unfortunately, I can't tell you why, but they were not allocated into exactly where they needed to go. So unfortunately, I cannot speak for the person who is not here.
But this doesn't necessarily mean that CES and Bellevue, I'm sorry, that CPS is going to cost 1.3 million less, and that CES and Bellevue are going to cost 675,000 more each. That's not what it necessarily means, is it?
No, what it means is that as opposed to saying we're going to pay a vendor, and it could be the same vendor, out of one account for all three schools, that we are going to make sure that where the money was spent, it is aligned with that bill within that account. And so we're wanting to move forward and make sure that they are there. Katie might have a better historical of that. Do you have any other information to add?
If you don't, you'll
It's
have to
okay.
come
If you
up.
don't, it's okay. But what we've noticed was that it was not necessarily put into the account that it should be in. And so we want to get it where it's supposed to go and pay the bills out of the correct accounts.
So this has nothing to do with the loss of funds, it's just
No.
the money's
not
in the
at
wrong,
all.
money was in the wrong place.
Yes.
Right, but when you have projects, funds are supposed to be
In that project.
in that project.
yes.
And not just put in a pool and let's just grab some to do this wherever.
And I will tell you, moving forward, what we have done, and we're going to give a presentation in January as well, but each of the projects that we're moving forward are being allocated a project number. We're referencing that project number constantly with the internal team. Every bill will go to that account for that project. And we have worked with Mr. Meadows and Ms. Hill over on the county side, really to make sure that we're doing things in the way that would be the best reflection of our accounting, but also that from day one, we create a budget for a project. We bring that budget to you all, you approve it, and then we put the funds that are approved into that account so that we can look at the spend down on any project at any time.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion passes. Are there any items of unfinished business that we need to discuss?
Chair Cass, I actually have a question. Back on the advisory committees, and I apologize, my laptop lost its internet connection, so I couldn't get there before we moved on. But I just had a question in terms of, we have some committees or groups that we kind of serve on as liaisons, whatever, but then these three that we just discussed didn't have school board people on them. I was just curious if that was intentional, like if any of us wanted to be involved in one of those, are we allowed to, or is that a decision that was made?
Yes, there was a decision that was made. And Brenda, what did we find out about school board members being on committees?
You're asking me to remember back to
Yeah.
September 2020.
That's like me.
But I
Wondering.
can tell you that the school board at their organizational meeting in January, that is when you put together your
That's when we-
slate of members
Who
who will
goes on what? Does
serve
what?
on committees. But that the reason school board members don't participate in committees that report to the board is because they report to the board and you have the ultimate authority.
Right.
Does that
Some
sound like your
committees, the
recollection?
state
Yes, it does.
requires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I did also, for the unfinished business, I wanted to mention some stuff for the new building for CHS. As I had mentioned earlier with the Student Advisory Committee meeting recently, we came to the conclusion for the bathrooms that if possible, we could do one section for males, one section for females, gender neutral and handicap accessible. And then probably most importantly, the female bathroom, since they'll have all the female hygiene products in the stalls, since it's going to be ceiling to the floor. And then also, there's just a suggestion, since there's going to be lots of windows, especially for the corner, if we could somehow get bulletproof windows or armored glass for the first level. And then also, maybe getting metal detectors for the front doors, just for the safety of the school. And I talked to Mr. Jones about it, and he said that his previous districts and previous schools used to have them, so he's used to it and he's open to the idea. And then last thing is, I mentioned this last meeting also, but electrical charging stations for the parking lots, especially since we're going to be hosting lots of events for track.
You mean, so car charger?
Yeah.
The electrical car chargers. Ms. Whitaker, or Dr. Whitaker, this was all under your purview, isn't it?
Yes, I will do my best to answer those. I think you have amazing suggestions, and I am so glad you are a member on the board. So a couple of things. One, in terms of the electrical parking, we do not have that in the plans as of this time. You know, it is something that the board could look at, but it is certain products in our schools. And so I hadn't thought about how we would address that with, our gender-neutral bathrooms. So I certainly think we will likely need to put them in there as well. So that's a great point. If someone would shoot me that in an email so I don't forget. The security, we are actually getting ready to issue a security survey so that we can ask our students, our parents, our community members what they would like to see, and metal detectors is on that survey. Mr. Garrettson is putting that together. As a reminder for you all, we've set aside $1 million of our CARES funding to address security needs. So, we wanted to wait for Dr. Bragan to get here to let him review that survey, make sure it had what we wanted, but that's a great suggestion. I agree. I keep saying, why don't schools have metal detectors? So, we'll see how that survey response comes, but I think that's an excellent idea. The glass itself in the corner there, I believe we asked the same question. There is a coating that can be put onto those to make them stronger, but I will make sure to look into that as well and give a board an update on the glass there at that end stairwell that'll be on the end of the building to let you know what that looks like. And was there one other thing you had said?
I think that was everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was everything.
All right.
But for the bathrooms, even if we're gonna, if they'll all be gender neutral, if we could keep a few to the side just for the females, because obviously I'll be the first to say males aren't the cleanest in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And
No,
just
females
for-
aren't either.
There you-
Okay.
Well, and I think that would be the female's bathroom would be the one that is set aside for just individual, for just that use would be those buildings within the bathroom.
Okay, so there is a plan to keep like male,
Yes.
female. Okay.
Yes,
'Cause
so
my
there's-
understanding when it was introduced, it was just going to be all gender neutral.
Yep.
So okay.
Yeah, there will be a variety of both, just because we feel like you never know how a kid's most comfortable. So we have some that are together, some that are separate, and I agree with you, it's all about who's comfortable in which space, and so there will be both options available.
One more thing I forgot to mention, if we could get soundproof walls for the stalls also, because a few of the students in the advisory committee said it was very loud when they're opening the products. So
I don't know on that, I can look for you. They will be, just so you know, floor to ceiling. So there will not be like a regular bathroom stall where, in the private ones, where you can look above or below. So that in and of itself, I think, would keep things quieter. But in the big bathrooms, I have not heard of like soundproof doors, before, but I certainly understand their concerns.
okay, sounds good.
Well, thank you so much. And I just think it's very sad that our students have to think about metal detectors and how do we make glass bulletproof. That's very sad.
And then one last thing, I'm sorry guys, but one last thing is I mentioned last meeting also for Gulf School students for the transition. Has there been any updates on that?
Governor's School, nothing.
Okay.
Do we have anything? No updates?
They are pursuing options. We had a meeting, a virtual meeting just before Thanksgiving where they went over a couple of the main options that they're pursuing right now, but nothing definitive yet. But they're aggressively trying to figure out a plan for it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any items of new business? Okay, announcements and information. Anybody have any announcements to make?
Well, I just like it's a little ways past, but I don't think we've really had a meeting that we could really talk about it. But I'd like to say congrats to the girls Auburn High School volleyball team for winning states, and also want to make sure that I do a shout out to CHS football. They did great. They tried hard and went as far as they could, and I'm real proud of them, and I'm real proud of Auburn and our girls too. So.
And I'll just add, because we haven't seen any of our sports teams in a long time. I miss them, and I'm proud of them all. But we've got to figure something out to get those folks back in here.
Maybe back in.
We used to recognize our state champions and
That was
things
before
like
my
that.
time, and so it's been over 3 years.
been
I
a
don't think
long
I've
time.
seen that done since I've been on the board.
Remember, I had brought that up about Eastmont, where the Kirk Litton had the athletic director. They have won 3 years in a row, and we had not been able to recognize them yet. So yeah, we need to try to get all of our athletic teams recognized as soon as we possibly can at some point.
Yeah. And maybe even our forensic teams when they win.
Yeah, even our scholastic, yeah.
Specifically remember seeing.
Right.
Because they would come here.
Well, and not only that, but let's go as far as scholastic and our
That's-
arts
that's what I
and
meant.
bands, our art and band. I know we can't have the whole band in here, but, we need to make sure that we make announcements and make,
Oh, I
give
think
them,
it'd be fun. I
give
think the
them
band should
recognition.
march in down the. I like that idea.
We have had this room filled with athletes from all across the county, so one band, that's nothing. Yeah, we can make it work.
They can
We'll
play
just
Hail
loop
to
them down
the-
the stairs and.
They can play Hail to the Chief when we
Yeah.
pick a new chair. Anyway, upcoming school board meetings, agenda prep, no, why is that there? This is our final meeting for 2022. Our next meeting will be our organizational meeting, which will be held on January 10th, 2023. And then we also changed the date of the second meeting too, didn't we? Change it to the 24th?
Yes, you'll
So that there'd
approve
be
that.
2 weeks apart, yeah.
Right, you'll approve that on January 10th.
Okay. And I believe we were talking to the county board of supervisors about trying to set up a joint meeting. What was the date we were talking? The 30th of January, right? So we could put that on the calendar. We'll be having another one of our joint meetings with them. So you didn't know about that, huh? Well, we just had the meeting yesterday. So put that one on the calendar. Okay. So do I have a motion to enter into closed session as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss one personnel matter and one legal matter?
So moved.
Ms. Drake, will you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Yes. Ms. Graham? Yes. Mr. Hudson? Yes. Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion passes, and we are going into closed session. Good night, everybody out there.
Happens everywhere. Talked about before. She wants that.
Read this letter.
Just ask her.
Wowie. I want to find out what's going on there. That is wowie.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did, but this letter was like,